Lianxin's arm penetrated, just like a spear. How could Ancestor Wanli have foreseen this? Seeing the impending formidable power, his magic energy was nevertheless severely depleted, unable to dodge in time. He was run through by a pinpoint of cold. The energy and blood in his whole body rapidly froze. His body and even his divine sense seemed to freeze. He was suddenly shocked. Enduring the pain, he shook his sleeve. He was a top-notch ancestor of a 4 great sword sect, after all. And his body gushed with a blooming water thunder. Blooming water divine thunder wrapped around Lianxin's body and exploded, trying to stop her. But the Lianxin in Extreme Realm was not so simple to handle. The majestic star's empty hand waved, and the Arctic star serpent spear flew directly back into her grasp. By the time Ancestor Wanli sensed it, he had already scurried frantically away. At such a close distance, to have the majestic star next to him, and without any defensive means, he definitely knew what would happen next. The large blooming water divine thunder was unable to stop her. Ancestor Wanli screamed, wanted to flee, but as he turned around, his chest was already run through by a spear. The Grand Supercluster Middle Stage Cultivator died under her spear right there. Lianxin coldly looked at this ancestor. She looted his astral bag, and without even looking, her figure wavers and arrived in front of the longevity steel. That longevity steel that had appeared was not intact at all. It was wrapped in a dull gold luster. She reached out a hand to touch it, only to find a forbid dance that required refining. Lianxin wrinkled her brow, stabbed with her spear, and light raged for a split second. Under the 5-star Arctic star serpent spear, the longevity steel's forbid dance very quickly dissolved. Just at this moment, there was a noise like thunder from outside the hall, shaking the entire palace. Multicolored rainbow light suddenly covered the halls. Young master! Lianxin was startled. Is this the longevity steel? Xianzhenzi looked at this tablet of flickering light with an expression of awe. The inscription upon it was written in a profound script. The characters were shaped like oddly swimming tadpoles. Although it was only one ruined fragment, Xianzhenzi still could discern the cultivation method on it. I never thought it was real. This is the longevity cultivation method, ha ha, ha. Xianzhenzi madly laughed. Today truly has been worthwhile. Xianzhenzi's sleeve shook, and a green rainbow twisted towards the tablet to break the forbid dance and take the steel. As for the purple thunder monster, Xianzhenzi currently truly had not the slightest interest. With the longevity cultivation method, what could the most high path be considered as in the future? The golden light of the tablet extended 10,000 zhang. And this steel suddenly transformed into a golden armored giant. Brazen thief, you dare spy on the technique for long life. The golden armored soldier gripped a halberd, its expression stern. Its eyes had golden light of biting cold, and with an explosive yell, it raised and stabbed with its halberd. Xianzhenzi had already anticipated this. The 72 outer void flying immortals' swords attacked, the sword lights crisscrossing. They cut countless sword marks and sparks over the golden armor, yet were not useful at all. The golden armored warrior's eyes released golden light, and a golden light more than a zhanglong shot directly for Xianzhenzi's chest. The light of a firefly dares to compete with the sun. Xianzhenzi sneered, circulating the true immortal open mind chant. His sleeve fluttered, and he grabbed the golden light with one hand, surprisingly crushing it to pieces. Then Xianzhenzi extended his hand, shattering this golden light to form a chicken egg-sized ball of light that slammed against the golden armored warrior. The golden armored soldier let out a low roar, stabbing with his halberd. Xianzhenzi chanted the word swift, and the 72 outer void flying immortals' swords fluttered in the golden armored soldiers' surroundings, dancing like youthful girls. Their perfume could even be smelled. Heavenly immortal sword array. The flying swords suddenly combined following Xianzhenzi's gesturing. Their dance movements were dazzling, but in the blink of an eye, the sword lights attacked and left the golden armored soldier heavily damaged. The heavenly immortal sword array was one of the 72 outer void flying immortals' swords' first-rate sword arrays, naturally no small matter given Xianzhenzi's skill. The golden armored divine soldier dissipated. Before Xianzhenzi could draw a breath, a halberd all of a sudden appeared right under his nose. Even Xianzhenzi was caught off guard. Fortunately, Xianzhenzi always used the true immortal to protect himself, thus avoiding disaster. Courting death. The old man wielded wind from his palm, sweeping aside the golden armored soldier. The 72 flying sword rainbow moved. Whoosh. Another golden armored soldier appeared out of nowhere, its halberd breaking his defenses and sticking into his ribs. Xianzhenzi vomited blood. He slapped his cranium, and a magic weapon activated that repelled the golden armored soldier. Whoosh whoosh. Several golden armored soldiers appeared in his surroundings. These divine soldiers were like phantoms, and Xianzhenzi surprisingly did not sense when these had appeared. Insignificant skills, yet you dare be impudent. Xianzhenzi was infuriated. His hands pinched, and the sword lights surged to crush them. Then he struck a hand seal, manifesting green light that filled the entire palace. Under the green light, those golden armored soldiers then disappeared like smoke. Everything was an illusion. As expected of a supercluster late-stage great cultivator, to use the dazzling light mind image to kill you is still somewhat difficult. A mocking voice came from above. Xianzhenzi was startled. The 72 flying swords protected him. He stared and was suddenly even more angry. A snow-white nine-tailed spirit fox with eyes glowing brightly showed a human-like charm. Beside the nine-tailed spirit fox was also a young girl in blue clothes wearing a slight smile as she held that slab of stone in her hand. These golden armored soldiers were not created by the longevity steel at all. Clearly, they were the illusions of that nine-tailed spirit fox. Shameful. Xianzhenzi was unable to restrain his anger, so furious that his face was red. The outer void flying immortals' swords appeared and slashed at Huashui and Wuxia. The 8 gates black gold chains circled around into an array that intercepted the flying swords. Senior Xianzhenzi. Since the longevity steel has already been taken by Xinjia. How about senior stop here? Could it be we truly must meet on the battlefield? Wu Xinjia's smile contained a faintly charming confidence. The knowledge star dares to be impudent in front of this old man? Xianzhenzi shouted. In the face of that first-rate longevity cultivation method, how could Xianzhenzi be willing to give up? Let alone the knowledge star. Even if it was the majestic star, Xianzhenzi would take a risk out of desperation. Dazzling light mind image. Huashui's fox eyes launched several beams of white light. A boundless white world appeared in the skies and earth around Xianzhenzi. Every sort of bug, beast and golden armored soldiers appeared in succession. But Xianzhenzi merely shouted, and used the flying swords to tear apart the illusion. Since he already knew this was an illusion magic, it was naturally very difficult for Huashui to think of trapping him again. Xianzhenzi's 12-faced colored glass mirror was activated. The 12-faced colored glass mirror suddenly enlarged, instantly surrounding Wu Xinjia and Huashui. This mirror's light was radiant as water, rippling blue light. A beam of light thick as an arm shot out from the mirror, reflecting through the 12-faced colored glass mirror. Instantly become one big net. The Tai One Immortal Mirror? The corner of Wu Xinjia's lips curled. Recognizing this was magic weapon that Xianzhenzi trapped and killed a dragon with. Those dozen blue light beams soared arrogantly, shooting all over Wu Xinjia's body. The 8 gates black gold chain had to be layered in order to finally stop this beam of light. This glass mirror was an immemorial lost treasure that Xianzhenzi had acquired. Not only could it trap the target, the immemorial secret art that the mirror possessed, Extreme One Immortal Light, was extremely rare. This light would endlessly reflect upon the target's body, rapidly wasting the opponent's strength. Trapped by the Tai One Immortal Mirror, it was very unlikely for her to escape. Originally, just by relying on this glass mirror, that Xianzhenzi was able to face 7th to 8th rank sky-swallowing dragon alone demonstrated its might. Hand over the longevity steel. Otherwise this old man will turn you into scattered ash. Xianzhenzi sneered. His colored glass mirror could trap even true spirits and souls. Perhaps a slain star general would be unable to return to the star nest. However, he did not know at all that Wuxia had long already lost her star nest. In light of face before Zhao Hanyan, Senior Xianzhenzi cannot give up here? Wu Xinjia calmly smiled. Xianzhenzi showed cold killing intent. He struck hand seals inside the mirror. The Extreme One Immortal Light immediately magnified, becoming as large as a bucket. The immortal light rolled towards Wuxia like a tidal wave. The 8 gates black gold chains were drawn even more concentrated. The grinding sounds of the chains immediately filled the air. Master! Huashui blinked. Wuxia was silent and motionless. Her divine intent moved. The 8 gates black gold chain became a profound formation. But that Tai-1 immortal mirror's immortal light was very formidable, weaving and entangling the 8 gates black gold chain, which made Wuxia's control over the 8 gates black gold chain very difficult, protection increasingly exhausting. Activate! Xianzhenzi laughed, flipping through hand seals. The Extreme One immortal light spread in all directions, manifesting an immortal realm pavilion platform, a bejeweled jade palace, and every kind of red-crowned crane and spirit deer. These illusions were stupefying, and even Wuxia was nearly bewitched. Just at this moment, the illusion turned into 72 flying swords. With a bang, the 8 gates black gold chains were defeated by the swords. Not good, the old fart's immemorial magic weapon was unexpectedly this formidable. Wuxia began to grow concerned. Xianzhenzi wore a disdainful grin. If it was any other martial four-star general, he perhaps would have to be careful, but how could he not be aware of the knowledge star's abilities? Even if she had that strange nine-tailed spirit fox and these odd black gold chains, once the Tai-1 immortal mirror trapped her, so long as he spent a little time, he could refine the enemy sooner or later. So as to avert problems from a delay, the purple thunder monster taking action, Xianzhenzi activated a green talisman without another word. This talisman released a green spirit light, pouring into Xianzhenzi's body. The 12-faced Tai-1 immortal mirror was increasingly powerful. True immortal talisman. It seems Senior truly will not let this go. Wuxia's eyes narrowed. This talisman could very briefly allow a cultivator's cultivation to reach its limits. All cultivation methods and abilities would become very powerful. However, the sole drawback was that it required the accompanying True Immortal Open Mind chant to be used. It could be said to be the True Immortal Palace's sole immortal talisman. But there were repercussions. By using this talisman, the True Immortal Open Mind chant's cultivation would decrease. At the same time, his own magic energy would be depleted, unable to be sustained. It seemed that Xianzhenzi would not hesitate to pay everything to obtain the longevity steal. Since this is the case, Xinjie shall not be polite. Sensing that the 8 gates black gold chain already were unable to bear the Extreme One immortal light, Wuxia did not dare be neglectful. Huashui. With a bewitching fox howl, Huashui possessed Wuxia's body. The power of the 8 gates black gold chain suddenly burst, once again defending resolutely, but against Xianzhenzi's non-stop magic energy. This possession was an utterly inadequate measure to resist. Struggling at death's door. Wuxia grinned charmingly. Her 3-star heaven-concealing star's fan appeared in her hand, and the knowledge star waved it. Then Xinjie invites Senior Xianzhenzi to taste Xinjie's Earth Rank special move. What? Earth Rank special move? Upon hearing those words, Xianzhenzi's expression was suddenly pale. Star General's Heaven-Earth Dark Yellow vied for supremacy in Lianxin. The Earth Rank techniques could be placed above Super Void. Just what technique can save you, Knowledge Star? Xianzhenzi shouted in indignation, but that nervous tone showed he was not confident. Wuxia smiled, and the heaven-concealing star's fan suddenly fanned. A resplendent river of stars seemed to flow out of the fan. Earth Rank special move. The stars have moved. The stars have moved. A river of stars flowed, activating in full. Wuxia's surroundings sunk into the beautiful scene of a galaxy. Before Xianzhenzi even had time to be surprised, the galaxy split in all directions. The Extreme One immortal light of the Tai-1 immortal mirror suddenly changed directions. Xianzhenzi shouted. Wuxia pointed her fan. The Extreme One immortal light and the Outer Void flying immortals' swords were reflected back. Originally, life-cast flying swords were incapable of harming the user, but Wuxia's The Stars Have Moved was not so simple. Wrapped in the galaxy, the flying swords and the Tai-1 immortal mirror now became things Wuxia controlled. Before Xianzhenzi could flee, he was surrounded by the Tai-1 immortal mirror. Then, the Outer Void Flying Immortal's swords, and the Extreme One Immortal Light simultaneously attacked. Without any suspense, Xianzhenzi was completely destroyed. What a pity. Wu Xinjie sighed. This old fellow knows that Master has the longevity steel, which will be a disaster sooner or later. Hua Shui disapproved. Master, you are too soft. Xinjie is regretful over that astral bag. Wu Xinjie shook her head. The supercluster late-stage Great Cultivator's astral bag, there definitely would be lots of good things. What a pity it was reduced to ash by the Extreme One Immortal Light, and the flying swords together. This Extreme One Immortal Light was formidable, as expected. Wu Xinjie looked again. The only things left of Xianzhenzi were only the Tai One Immortal Mirror, and the 72 Outer Void Flying Immortals flying swords that had lost their master. Unless life-cast flying swords like these encountered a cultivator, who had similar proficiency in the sword chant, it was simply a pile of useless scrap iron even if it was refined. The 100 flying swords from the Five Poisons Valley had always been left in an isolated corner up until now. Wu Xinjie suddenly felt dizzy. Master. Hua Shui was startled. So using an earth rank technique for the first time will turn out like this. Wu Xinjie clapped her hands. Let us go help the other sisters now. Master, are you sure? Hua Shui asked. For the Star Maidens, the earth rank was practically their most brilliant special move. Although they had the Heaven Earth Dark Yellow, in actuality, those able to self-comprehend the Heaven rank was very rare after the 7 Stars Assembly, and to be able to use earth rank special moves would bring great burden. No problem. Xinjie is but the knowledge star. The corner of Wu Xinjie's lips slightly curved. As the knowledge star of the 108 who could definitely comprehend the Heaven rank, using the earth rank did not count as much. Hua Shui nodded. Just as Wu Xinjie was about to leave, right at this moment, a rainbow light outside the hall threaded together, suddenly awe-inspiring. And Suwen and Lianxin went to the third palace, arriving in front of the longevity steel a step ahead of all other cultivators. These girls were about to seize it when, in no more than the blink of an eye, a spry and lively female cultivator immediately entered the palace. Hand over this tablet to me. I am not enemies with you. The newcomer was the Heavenly Ice Holy Palace's Queen Lady of Ice. The Queen Lady of Ice originally had no desire to interfere with the hostilities between the Purple Thunder Monster and the Most High Path. Owing to the 10 great sects, she had no choice but to come. But the Purple Thunder Monster solving the Bright Moon Longevity Palace was far outside of her expectations. In addition, the Longevity Steel's manifestation made the Queen Lady of Ice feel even more astonished. The situation rapidly changed. Even if the Queen Ice, whose heart was like frozen ice, was interested in the longevity cultivation method. This is the Bright Moon Longevity Palace that Elder Brother solved. Why should we give it to you? Lianxin was expressionless. The Great Void Golden Lotus blossomed with rays of light. Then I shall offend you. Queen Lady of Ice's hand rose. She knew that the longevity secret technique could not be obtained by words. Queen Lady of Ice then used her flying swords without saying another word. The Ice Spirit Snow Soul flying swords became 100 cold lights that shot over. The Great Void Golden Lotus shapeshifted into flying swords to block. Now that Lianxin's Great Void Golden Lotus was also 5-star, it was not to be outdone facing a supercluster cultivator's flying swords. Solitary Star Lianxin pointed once more, and a flying dagger astral flew out. Queen Lady of Ice exhibited wonderful body techniques, her gait cold as ice floating. One palm strike shattered this astral tool, then she squeezed together a hand seal. Several cold smokes shot out from her fingertips. The hall's cold air reached their internal organs in a split second. Lianxin, go take the longevity steel. Leave this to Suwen. And Suwen stood forth. Lianxin knew that of the sisters that went to go snatch the longevity steels, they were the weakest of them all. In a direct confrontation against a supercluster cultivator, they practically had no chance of victory. The sole solution was for one of them to buy time. To first seize the longevity steel. With the Solitary Star's abilities, breaking the longevity steel's forbid dance naturally was not difficult. Queen Lady of Ice changed, an array of white light burst out. Yet it was a sword that was seemingly jade, seemingly ice. It had no sheen, but the cold air it emanated was dense, chilly to the bone. The very air seemed to freeze, and the ground of the palace immediately was covered in a thick sheet of ice, so cold that even time seemed to grind to a halt. 10,000-year black ice. And Suwen was startled. This cold immortal sword was forged over a time of several dozen years from a piece of 10,000-year black ice that Queen Lady of Ice found at a place extremely south of the Heavenly Ice Holy Palace in a sheet of ice 10,000 zhang thick using the black ice cold qi that Queen Lady of Ice cultivated. It did not receive a bit of heat. The 10,000-year black ice was one of Lianxin continent's extreme cold-type objects. It had condensed over a period of 10,000 years, naturally contained the Kuan-Yin cold qi of the Five Spirits Law Heavenly Book, and upon activating, with only the slightest inattentiveness, being swept by the cold qi could simultaneously seal flesh, blood vessels and spirit pores. Magic energy circulation would be inefficient, and it could be said that it was naturally a first-rate precious object. Because Su Xing's water element flying sword required 10,000-year black ice, and Suwen remembered its characteristics clearly, and Suwen's limbs were ice-cold. A wave of cold attacked her, as if even the star nest had been frozen. Her whole body's star energy was even more unable to circulate, and she was inwardly shocked. She knew the might of this sword, and she promptly brought out the Seven Stars Birth Sword. Queen Lady of Ice did not have any battle intent at all. Like all the other cultivators, she only wanted to obtain this longevity steel. Although she had no hatred for the Purple Thunder Monster, she did not want to see the Purple Thunder Monster grow on his own. The cold immortal sword rose, and Suwen waved the Seven Stars Birth Sword. 7 iridescent rainbows flew out of the sword, as if they were drawing apart the sky. The cold immortal sword's cold qi was fierce. Qianquan cold qi surged. The cold qi was pervasive, obscuring everything. The surroundings were an entirely pale white, and the 7 rays of color disappeared as if into the ocean before entering the cold qi. The qi of cold yin was bone-chilling. And Suwen saw that the 7 Stars Birth Sword was completely outmatched by the cold immortal sword. Taking several steps back, she moved her divine intent towards the astral stone. With a cry, a hurricane flew out of the astral stone. It became millions of essence-swallowing dragons that flew out. Upon seeing the ancient strange beasts, Queen Lady of Ice did not panic. The cold immortal sword released a cold light that sprinkled down. This Kuan-Yin cold qi was something difficult for the essence-swallowing dragons to devour. The cold qi parted, and those essence-swallowing dragons seemed to have entered an unprecedented realm. They emitted an odd qi body, showing a profound clear light on their bodies. It expanded and contracted. Much of the cold qi in the air was absorbed. They unexpectedly devoured the Kuan-Yin cold qi. Queen Lady of Ice could not help but be stirred. How could she have known that in order to raise the essence-swallowing dragons, and Suwen now was using the remaining 10,000-year evil-suppressing gem bamboo to feed them? The essence-swallowing dragons' numbers were not only growing by the day, they had grown to unprecedented levels. A storm of green that filled the skies left Queen Lady of Ice with no choice but to retreat. The Ice Spirit Snow Soul Sword and the Great Void Golden Lotus were entangled for the time being, not easily disengaged. Now that the cold immortal sword was unexpectedly suppressed, she did not hesitate to use the Aurora bottle. A magnificently graceful beam sprayed out from the mouth of the bottle, as if it was a gushing tidal wave. This Aurora could attack and defend, and its attacks were exceptionally sharp. The Aurora twisted, dispersing many of the essence-swallowing dragons. Against that prehistoric Aurora, the essence-swallowing dragons opened their mouths and devoured it. The Aurora bottle. And Suwen recognized from a glance the treasure that Gong Kaiwei had previously used in the palace of Empress Hua. And for the cultivator in front of her to be able to wield Gong Kaiwei's treasure, the smart young girl immediately deduced that the pair's relationship was close. "Senior, can you give up?" Suwen once had a meeting with Kaiwei inside the palace of Empress Hua. And Suwen did not want to damage Gong Kaiwei and Su Xing's relationship. She spoke for the time being. Queen Lady of Ice raised her eyebrows. As Suwen had surmised, for this bright moon longevity palace, Queen Lady of Ice had specially took Gong Kaiwei's Aurora bottle for protection. Her relationship to Gong Kaiwei was like that of a mother. The Queen Lady of Ice was naturally aloof and did not answer. She repeatedly used her abilities. How could her urgency to obtain the longevity steal not also be for the sake of her disciple as well? The cold immortal sword and the aurora bottle were continuously used. The cold air was dense, sinking into the entire third palace and freezing it. And Suwen used the 7 stars birth sword and essence swallowing dragons to barely resist. The efficacious star was increasingly exhausted. On the other side, Lianxin was currently using all her power to break the forbid dance. Against the obstruction of the Ice Spirit Snow Soul flying swords, the 5-star Great Void Golden Lotus was only barely holding out. Suddenly, Queen Lady of Ice formed a hand seal. The Ice Spirit Snow Soul flying sword spun into a sword array, collapsing like a mountain of ice. Countless icicles sprouted from the ground. And Suwen and Lianxin were cold enough that their lips were directly chapped. The efficacious star repeatedly threw out golden pellets. These golden pellets sprinkled a warm light like a talisman, making things just a bit easier for them. Why do you follow that man? Queen Lady of Ice saw that the pair completely powerless star generals had such awe-inspiring willpower. That ice-cold face was slightly stirred. Do you not know that Purple Thunder Monster is merely exploiting you all? Queen Lady of Ice merely treated the efficacious star and the solitary star before her as not having signed a contract with Su Xing and asked. And Suwen grunted and did not answer. The star crest on her forehead flashed. The child and mother linked heart's needles flew out. Queen Lady of Ice's magic energy pushed. The aurora bottle and the cold immortal sword's might was even fiercer. The swimming speed of the 10,000 essence swallowing dragons became snail-like in pace. Could it be you would rather die in his place? Queen Lady of Ice said again. Her eyes flashed with blue light. Suwen has already given her life to Big Brother. And Suwen resolutely answered, pointing her hand. The child and mother linked heart's needles suddenly stuck into her own body, making her own ice-cold consciousness suddenly clear. Queen Lady of Ice's brows sunk. After all, she naturally practiced the Ice Mind chant. How could a word or two move her to pity? Seeing Suwen so resolute, she slightly nodded in admiration. A flame of biting cold suddenly rushed out. When Lianxin saw Suwen could not last, she summoned the Great Sun Essence Butterfly. Opening its mouth, Great Sun Essence fire flowed from its 7 apertures. The Great Void Golden Lotus received the baptism of the Great Sun Essence fire, and its light was even more fierce, unexpectedly repelling the Ice Spirit Snow Soul swords. The pale white mist had a hole burned into it. Dark rank technique, misfortune turns to fortune. The Great Sun Essence fire was one of the extreme yang fires. This sudden combustion burned back Queen Lady of Ice's powers. The ice-cold palace's snow and ice melted. A return to spring, however. This misfortune turns to fortune was only a special move Lianxin used to forge weapons after all. Using it in combat was only a temporary measure. Queen Lady of Ice retreated back. Just as she was preparing to exert 3 abilities at full power. Master, please stop. Just at this moment, a voice carrying slight worry penetrated the extremely cold air. A young girl whose clothes surpassed snow gracefully arrived, just like the Guanghan fairy. Gong Kaiwei. And together with Gong Kaiwei was leader star Zhu Sha. Kaiwei, why have you come here? Queen Lady of Ice was startled. At this time, the stone-like girl Zhu Sha's expression changed. The 5 elements weather banner unfurled, releasing the Heaven-Earth 5 elements to protect Suwen. Gong Kaiwei's actions actually did not make Suwen feel surprised at all. You, Master, please listen to Kaiwei. Stop. Gong Kaiwei gazed at that longevity steal without the slightest bit of interest. Queen Lady of Ice wrinkled her brow. This was the first time she had seen the cold as ice Gong Kaiwei show feelings like this. Queen Lady of Ice practiced the Ice Heart chant, but she was not an emotionless person. Although she was especially tempted by the longevity steal, she also knew now that the coordination and determination of the efficacious star and solitary star already were unable to be shaken. Lianxin did not need a moment longer, and took the longevity steal into her sack. The solitary star was not as warm as Suwen. She stared intently at Gong Kaiwei. The expression of the gold coin-spotted leopard was truly vigilant as a leopard's. "Kaiwei, what are you doing?" Queen Lady of Ice said in a low voice. Actually, it was very simple why Gong Kaiwei had come. From the moment Queen Lady of Ice borrowed the Aurora bottle, Gong Kaiwei sensed that matters were fishy, but the 10 great sects had concealed the information about their encirclement of the Purple Thunder monster very thoroughly. Gong Kaiwei did not find any clues at all. Only that the place they were surrounding was the Bright Moon Longevity Palace. This place was Prince Feng Wu's, the domain of Gong Kaiwei's father. A large flock of first-rate cultivators coming to this place naturally could not be concealed. Gong Kaiwei therefore rushed over because of this. She had trained at the Heavenly Ice Holy Palace ever since she lost her mother when she was young, treating Queen Lady of Ice as a mother. And she also had confusing feelings for Purple Thunder monster Su Xing. From the Flower Dragon Cave's dragon incident to the birth treasure outline, and on through the life and death battle in Evil Smiting Hall, by all sorts of chance or perhaps by ill-fated coincidence, Su Xing had become the second person to have infiltrated her heart. On one side was Queen Lady of Ice, who was like a mother to her, and on the other was a close acquaintance. Gong Kaiwei did not want to either side hurt the other at all, and it was precisely because of this that after Queen Lady of Ice arrived at the third palace, Gong Kaiwei had tailed her all this time, stepping forth now to intervene. What had happened inside naturally was a long story short. Gong Kaiwei did not answer Queen Lady of Ice's inquiry at all, but she earnestly looked at her. The warmth in the pupils of the Ice and Snow Girl was her best reply. Queen Lady of Ice slightly sighed. "You will not regret this?" Queen Lady of Ice confirmed. Gong Kaiwei gently grunted, not saying another word. "Very well." Queen Lady of Ice waved a white finger. The cold air in the hall suddenly abated, and the temperature returned to normal. The Aurora bottle flew to Gong Kaiwei. "Since this is yours, I will follow your decisions, but that Purple Thunder monster has provoked the most high path. I fear things are extremely dangerous." Gong Kaiwei nodded. Zhu Sha recalled the 5 elements weather banner, and Suwen and Tang Lianxin were astonished. They hastily ran out of the palace. Queen Lady of Ice allowed the 2 young girls to brush past her. In the moment their shoulders passed, that worried expression was clearly sincere, so genuine that this was not an expression a Star General ought to have. Perhaps that Purple Thunder monster truly can change these star duels. But just who is he? Queen Lady of Ice turned around, contemplating. Outside the palace, a rainbow light suddenly flashed. "Fourth palace. Please put down the longevity steel." A beautiful maid unhurriedly walked over from the outside of the palace, her gait graceful as if she's stepping on feathers, that was gentle and peaceful. Yen Chao of the Divine Flame Sword sect was currently breaking the longevity steel's forbid dance. He turned his head to look at those copper-like pupils in front of him, and could not help but be drawn in. Her flower crown made clothes, exposed shoulder, her slender vermilion pupils. She truly was a beauty. "Are you requesting this of me?" Yen Chao flung his hand. 105 motifs true fire flying swords burned in the air. The man calmly smiled. The maid stopped at a distance 50 meters away from the man, assuming an attack stance. Her fists glowed with the profound light of yin and yang. The sole deficiency was one carp swimming about that was nevertheless missing its other half, and that swimming carp very quickly fade away. The yin-yang Pisces fists. The famous skillful star wanderer. "Your servant did not expect to be half the fortune to meet you." Yen Chao nodded, muttering to himself. For that man to be able to have so many first-rate star generals truly makes one unable to not be envious. "If you want the longevity steel." Yen Chao pointed to the longevity steel. Before he could finish, there was a bang. Dust flew, and Yen Yizhen's figure vanished. The 5 motifs true fire flying swords completely could not track her. Yen Chao already was sent flying by a punch. "As a maid, you truly are very rude to guests." Yen Chao wiped away the blood from the corner of his mouth, climbing up as if nothing had happened. Yen Yizhen was expressionless, her gaze glancing at her right hand. There was still a burning flame. Under that punch just now, she clearly felt a true fire on that man's body protect him, unexpectedly making her own punching force unable to break through. This man was not simple. Your servant has long wished to duel with a martial general. Yan Chao suddenly grinned. The 5 motifs true fire flying swords descended, entirely burning space, agitating a faint wind. Yan Chao formed a hand seal, and the surroundings were completely filled with resplendent red light. A bowl-sized red flame simultaneously bubbled forth. Yan Yizhen's figure swayed. She advanced through the suffocating flames. The maid's swiftness made the flying swords miss each time. Yan Chao ceased his frivolity, and his expression became stern. He extended a hand, and the bowl-sized 5 motifs divine flame linked together into a line. Whatever this 5 motifs divine flame touched became ashes. Immediately, Yan Chao turned around and flew towards the longevity steel. The flames wailed. Yan Chao turned his head back to look and inwardly cursed. A large hole had been torn out of the true fire. The apathetic maid astonishingly rushed out of the gap. The 4-star Yin-Yang Pisces fists had extinguished the 5 motifs divine flame with just one punch. Yan Chao hastily retreated, the flying swords protecting him. He took out a magic weapon, raised it towards the sky, and a fire rope became a fire dragon that burned towards the Yan Yizhen pouncing at him. This ardent dragon rope was dragon muscle Yan Chao gathered from an ardent fire dragon refined using true fire. He used the 5 motifs divine flame to forge it, injected it with the ardent fire dragon's true spirit, and it possessed practically psychic capabilities. It was the magic weapon that Yan Chao was most proud of. It often showed its usefulness in every encounter with a dangerous foe. The ardent dragon rope manifested a fire dragon true spirit that bit at Yan Yizhen. Yan Yizhen quickly evaded. This ardent dragon rope did not require control from the cultivator, and was capable of automatically tracking its target. Anyway Yan Yizhen dodged. It followed closely behind without losing her. After several breaths, the ardent dragon rope roared and thoroughly stopped Yan Yizhen. Not only was the rope capable of trapping her, the rope itself also released 5 motifs true fire that burned. You have only this bit of ability? How mediocre. Yan Chao saw that the skillful star was trapped by the ardent dragon rope. He extended a hand, and the 5 motifs true fire flying sword simultaneously slashed, the firelight encircling Yan Yizhen, sword light shooting everywhere. Yan Chao's pride did not continue for too long. Suddenly his eyes were dazzled. The maid's beautiful figure was inconceivably right in front of him. So quick. Yan Chao was stunned. The ardent dragon rope's sole flaw was that it could not thoroughly lock down the opponent's body. After all, this trap magic weapon was refined from dragon muscle. So long as some brilliant escape technique was used, most could escape, but what Yan Chao did not expect was for the skillful star to surprisingly have such excellent escape techniques. Yan Yizhen's eyes were ice cold, and the fists of Yin and Yen followed suit. Her boxing technique was unleashed. Yan Chao circulated his cultivation method, and his body turned a thorough red, like red-hot iron. Bearing Yan Yizhen swallow flash samsara. This Yan Chao was one of the divine flame sword sect's first-rate ancestral masters. He trained in the Nanyang True Chant. 2. This cultivation method trained to its limit could temper the user's body to be as solid as iron. It was because of this that Yan Chao could be so calm and unhurried facing the famous skillful star's boxing arts. The two of them attacked for several breaths without disengaging. Yan Chao was chopped several times by Yan Yizhen's attacks when he finally spotted a gap. He chanted, and the flying swords burst with flame, suddenly pervasive. The fire's power magnified, and Yan Chao only thoughts were on making things difficult for this detached maid. He circulated his divine fire powers to burn Yan Yizhen's clothing. Yan Yizhen flipped backwards and sent a punch behind her. The wind from her fist was chilly, like a wild gust blowing, dispersing the flames. This protected the clothes on her body. What a pity. Yan Chao clicked his tongue. He chuckled. If you allow your servant to see your naked body, your servant will not mind giving this longevity steel to you. Yan Yizhen recoiled backwards, expressionlessly facing his provocation. If you will not consider it, then that is your loss. Yan Chao's seemingly frivolous grin hid a grave feeling. His hands formed a hand seal, and he read an incantation. Suddenly, the 105 motifs true fire flying sword spun in a clump, changing into a sword array. 10-sided execution fire sword array. 3. There was an intense blaze and rolling smoke, filling the skies and covering the earth. The flying swords flashed continuously, scarlet light dancing in Yizhen's surroundings that encircled her from all directions, leaving only Yizhen in the middle. In all directions, there were only flames and smoke. They simultaneously threw themselves at Yizhen, leaving her with no place to hide. Yizhen saw the sword array attack. Without any fear, she coldly snorted. Her fists clenched and waved up and down, as if she was drawing the taiji. A yin and yang pattern appeared on her fists. The flames were intense, black clouds rolled, and this practically completely enveloped Yizhen. Yan Chao could not see any movements inside and worried that Yizhen was counterattacking. He fished out countless heavenly thunderbolts from his astral bag and threw them. Suddenly, he saw the flaming sword array explode with a thundercrack, seemingly rumbling like thunder. This heavenly thunderbolt was one of 13 items that low-level cultivators often used to kill high-level cultivators. In fact, up until Supercluster late stage, the heavenly thunderbolts were already completely harmless in Yan Chao's perspective, but Yan Chao had always successfully and smoothly killed people, using the heavenly thunderbolts ever since he had begun cultivating. Even after he had become an ancestral master of the Divine Flame Sword sect, he still carried them around. He unexpectedly had 1,000 of them. For 1,000 heavenly thunderbolts to smash down, this was no small matter. Even a supercluster cultivator would find it hard to avoid difficulty facing this. Countless thunderclaps struck like a string of pearls, exploding upon her, deafening. The explosions were such that the flames were about to be extinguished. The yin-yang light rocketed into the sky. There was a bang as if something had cracked. Yan Chao was stunned. The giant array of fire that covered the sky retreated. The maid stood in the middle without batting an eyelid, let alone any wounds. Her clothes were unexpectedly completely intact. And on Yizhen's hands astonishingly appeared the swimming yin-yang carps. The 1,000 heavenly thunderbolts and the 10-sided execution fire sword array were unexpectedly broken. How is this possible, to surprisingly be not harmed in the slightest? Yan Chao's smile suddenly froze. He did not hesitate to bite open his fingertip, using his blood to write something in the air. Afterwards, he took out 2 crimson talismans. The 2 crimson talismans shredded, becoming 2 scarlet ribbons that rolled towards Yizhen. The ribbons resonated with a loud sound, endlessly pouring into the ears. The ardent dragon rope also followed. In spite of the clap of thunder, Yizhen changed her boxing technique. Her stance was calm and tranquil. Gentle and light would be an understatement in describing it. Red light flashed on her hand, and then she grabbed. The 2 crimson fire ribbons were grabbed in Yizhen's hands like lengths of rope. She twisted and pulled, reeling them in, and then ripped apart the ribbons. Yan Chao stared dumbstruck. His first heavenly execution fire talisman was surprisingly destroyed so easily, but what was even more surprising came after. The ardent dragon rope turned into a fire dragon that once again constricted Yizhen. This time, the maid caught the fire dragon with both hands without even looking. Pulling and tearing, with yin and yang, she unexpectedly ripped the ardent dragon rope in half. Bang, just like severed bowstring. Yizhen was like a monster as she drew near him. This was her dark rank technique. Snapped bowstring magnolia lily ballad. Snapped bowstring magnolia lily ballad could terminate the opponent's technique. To tear apart something like this with the extreme realm of the yin-yang carps naturally was easily done. Fuck. Yan Chao was shocked, as if he had seen a ghost. He hastily circulated the 9-yang true chant to resist. Yan Chao was slammed repeatedly backwards by Yizhen's boxing. The 4-star destined weapons boxing made Yan Chao nearly vomit blood. Do not look down on your servant. Yan Chao was infuriated, his eyes completely red. Flames rushed beside the 2, obscuring the fight within the flames, which was simply fast to the point of astonishing. Although Yan Chao looked like the difference between his and the skillful star's martial prowess was considerably vast, it was hard to imagine the 2 unexpectedly could trade blows for more than 10 bouts. Conflagration 5 Prairie Fires. Yan Chao's punch struck, using a Conflagration Sky 9 chapters. 5. The Conflagration Sky 9 chapters was a punching art cultivation method, slightly able to contend against Yizhen. How could the ancestral master of the Divine Flame Sword sect concede defeat? He punched, piercing space like a sword. Before Yan Chao's shock could end, suddenly, Yizhen hooked his arm. The maid's seemingly gentle fist connected a punch with Yan Chao's chest. The power of cold Yin penetrated his body, making Yan Chao's brow contort. But Yan Chao's Nine-Yang True Chant's power made Yizhen's expression change. When she landed this punch, Yan Chao unexpectedly did not move at all. Hey! Conflagration 6 blazes destruction. 6 Yan Chao's right fist pounded. This punch's speed was beyond normal, booming towards Yizhen's head. The maid blocked with her left hand, immediately withdrew her foot, and quickly left his attack range. The maid's slender pupils released the presence of danger, the yin-yang fist stirring menacingly. Damn it! Yan Chao was alarmed. Another conflagration 6 blazes destruction. His punch's flames were like a blade, cutting everything. I was waiting for this. Yizhen's eyes showed faint light. The skillful star of brilliant techniques faced the cultivator's punch, and the latter was undoubtedly an amateur in front of an expert. The distance of a dozen meters between them was crossed in a single step. Yizhen avoided the flame blade, and then she drew near Yan Chao's flank. Yan Chao was already too late to use a flying sword, so he promptly withdrew. A magic weapon flew out. Yizhen leaned, swiftly moving close against the ground, avoiding the flying swords and flames, scuttling in front of Yan Chao like a snake, as if she had foreseen Yan Chao's reactions. One punch landed on his chest. The ripping pain made Yan Chao's expression twist. His red hand was just about to use the conflagration 8 burns heaven in competition. But the flames ended before they even began. Yizhen's fists suddenly shaped like blades, directly sticking into a person's weakest spot, the armpits. The maid's hands came together, quick to the extreme. Yan Chao hurt practically into unconsciousness as his underarms were shattered. The two lights of cold and warmth stuck into his body, leaving him in so much pain he wished to die. Yin-Yang Palm. Yizhen shook her hand. The yin-yang's shattered light crumbled like dust. Although Yan Chao wielded the Nine-Yang True Chant with power, the yin-yang palm chop's cold and warm forces still made him suffer unbearably, particularly in his shattered underarms. Does your master have you serve guests like this? Yan Chao grimaced, still not changing his inherent personality. She suddenly vanished. Yizhen attacked. True fire flying swords were knocked aside by her unstoppable punches. Yan Chao retreated backwards, hiding his body. He suddenly sneered, flipped his wrist, and with a thump, a fist-sized ball of light shot out of his astral bag. It spiraled into Yan Chao's hand, revealing a simple and unadorned fan. This fan was only a few centimeters large, was shaped like a luan with crimson feathers. The talisman script on it was dense, layered on top of each other. A slightly swaying red halo spun indeterminately, and countless scripts manifested one after another, making those who looked directly at it dizzy. Seeing Yizhen's power was like a mad flood, he knew he had no way to compete. He did not dare be arrogant. He formed a hand seal, and after the crimson light flashed, the fan's light suddenly magnified, becoming several chi large. Yan Chao gripped the fan in one hand, concentrated all of his magic energy, and aimed the fan ruthlessly at the approaching Yizhen. The erosion of the magic energy of his whole body was even more excessive than before. Yan Chao stared blankly, but he did not think too much. He fanned the fan, giving Yizhen a big grin. If you do not run, then you must be prepared for your clothes to be all burned away by your servant's burning Luan Divine Flame Fan. Ha ha! Burning Luan Divine Flame Fan. This was also one of the magic weapons that Yan Chao was proud of. Prehistoric magic weapons had an extremely powerful 7 feathers Karma Fire Fan refined from 7 types of prehistoric fire-type divine beasts, and one of the 7 was the burning Luan that Yan Chao comprehended from the 7 feathers Karma Fire Fan. He refined only the burning Luan. Although the martial force was inferior in power, it was still far more formidable than Zhao Heng's 7 feathers Karma Fire Fan. Yan Chao's firelight flowed, blowing a faint wind. His whole body seemed to be aflame. After the red Luan Divine Flame Fan cried, that scarlet as jade light immediately concentrated and changed shape. Then, the fan suddenly trembled. and the feathers spurted forth with flames. Immediately afterwards, all of the flames concentrated towards the middle, unexpectedly transforming directly into a zhang-sized fire bird. This was the Burning One. The Burning One emerged. Flames covered the sky and earth, and a powerful faint wind made Yizhen's cold and detached pupils show an abnormality. Then Yin Chao again extended his hand. The 105 motifs true fire flying swords simultaneously danced. All of the flying swords suddenly released flames, dancing with lightning speed, becoming a flower of flame that blossomed in Yizhen's surroundings. It complemented the Burning One considerably well, making Yizhen's figure submerge within. 8-sided heavenly fire array. 2. But Yin Chao was not done at all. He opened his mouth, and a lotus flower flew out. This treasure was the Karma Fire Lotus Flower, a treasure. It had undergone Yin Chao's refinement, and became a powerful magic weapon. The Karma Fire Lotus Flower unfurled under Yin Chao's feet, making Yin Chao appear as if he was stepping on the lotus. The opened petals sprayed out a dark red light. This red light hastened under his hand seals, spiraling around Yin Chao with telepathic speed. The thin-as-hair red light sparked, with an abnormally loud noise. It interwove into a net, becoming a Karma Fire Lotus Flower barrier. A luminous light flashed upon it, protecting Yin Chao completely within. As the first-rate ancestral master of the Divine Flame Sword sect, Yin Chao naturally had the resources to be lofty. The Burning One Divine Flame Fan added onto the 8-sided Heavenly Fire Sword array, and finally along with the Karma Fire Lotus Flower protecting him, Yin Chao practically had exhausted all of his most powerful techniques. He did not believe that a star general could be unbridled against them. As expected, Yizhen defended with her fists, already stepping back in the face of these fireworks. To not be able to see your naked body truly is a pity. Yin Chao laughed aloud, turning around and flying towards the longevity steel. Not a moment later, he broke the longevity steel's forbid dance and took the longevity steel into his palm. Yin Chao's heart was thrilled. At this moment he turned his head to look. The Burning One Divine Flame Fans might had already practically burned the palace to nothing. Black, ugly scorch marks were left everywhere. In this ugly scenery, there was a woman who was particularly beautiful. She leaned where she stood, her maid clothes clearly mostly destroyed. Barely anything covered her body. In this black hall of destruction that extended as far as the eye could see, the woman's white skin was especially eye-catching, particularly that plum blossom tattoo on her back, so beautiful it was stifling. Yizhen could barely defend against the Burning One Divine Flame Fan, and the Heavenly Fire Sword array's might. After all, this was used by a supercluster peak ancestral master. As far as Yizhen was concerned, this still was no small trouble. Yin Chao clicked his tongue, somewhat regretful he could not see that naked body, but that half-concealed scene actually made him pleased. He wanted to indulge in his fantasies, but the maid's cold and detached eyes honestly made Yin Chao very disappointed. That practically was a gaze looking at a dead person, a gaze without any feeling at all. As a female servant, your expression honestly is very short of the standard. Yin Chao sneered. He played with the longevity steel in his hand. Without the aid of her contractor, against the current skillful star, he held the advantage. Naturally, this was enough time to carefully appreciate his praised dejected expression. To be able to make a star general's tarnished with ash and dirt was even more satisfying than the longevity steel. Right now the great treasure 3 is already in my hands. It seems you will be unable to complete your master's orders. Yin Chao cast a sidelong glance at her. He showed a ruminating and shameless smile. Do you want it? Compared to the longevity steel, your servant is even more fond of looking at a star general's naked body, particularly yours, skillful star. As long as you obediently remove your remaining clothes and allow this ancestor to carefully admire you, this longevity steel is yours with no trouble. Yizhen's vermilion pupils appeared to be even more scorching than the flames. You are already dead now. Skillful Star Wanderer spat out 5 ice-cold words. Yin Chao was taken aback. He laughed aloud. I could not tell that you were capable of jokes, Yin Qing, not. Just as Yin Chao was about to praise her with a not bad, before he could utter the phrase, he suddenly noticed that his body was emitting the two kinds of pain of ice-cold and scorching fire. As if there was something flowing inside his body. Yan Chao's whole body stooped over, and not bad immediately became dread, complete despair. Not possible. Yan Yizhen's palms gently trembled. Bang! One carp of coldine, and another carp of orange burst out of Yan Chao's chest from within his body. In a split second, half of Yan Chao's body was on fire, and the other was ice. Yan Chao looked at Yan Yizhen in astonishment, finally understanding what had happened. At the moment Yin-Yang palm cut into Yan Chao's body, Yan Yizhen injected him with the resurrected Yin-Yang carps at the same time in passing. The more Yan Chao used his magic energy to exhaustion, the more he nurtured the Yin-Yang carps. The result was that by the time Yan Chao unleashed his full power with 3 types of powers, he had just fell into Yan Yizhen's trap. To borrow Yan Chao's magic energy to restore the carps to their originally complete state. And at this moment, Yan Chao naturally was a fish on the chopping block waiting to be slaughtered. Skillful Star Wanderer indeed did not tell jokes. Harboring this despair, Yan Chao reached his end just like this. The Yin-Yang carps cheerfully swam around Yan Yizhen's fists. The corner of Yan Yizhen's lips could not help but curl in a near imperceptible smile. With the longevity steel in hand, Yan Yizhen discarded her destroyed maid clothes, revealing her absolutely beautiful jade body. Each curve of her body was sufficient to take away someone's breath. A pity that this supercluster ancestor had died with unfinished desire, and was unable to see. Yan Yizhen changed into a new maid dress. The skillful star's eyes concentrated, catching sight of the rainbow light outside the window. At the 5th palace, the lifeless hall's ancestor longevity was currently very pressured. His complexion was ashen, his body seemingly pinned by a giant mountain unable to draw breath. 99 coping with undergoing rebirth swords 5 became a black abyss. These normally swaggering flying swords currently followed ancestor longevity's heart and constantly shuddered, as if they were being suppressed by something. And the one to make the Azure Dragon territory's famous ancestor longevity to be so pressured was none other than an exceedingly refined little girl. Gongsun Huang wore the phoenix perch red cloud clothes, and a multicolored light glowed on her body, superbly respectable. The 3-star Pine brand ancient sword in her hand floated above the longevity steel, just like a fairy who had descended into the mundane world from the 9 firmaments. Just her domineering aura made ancestor longevity feel heavy. As the most powerful in magic energy, Gongsun Huang's magic made ancestor longevity witness her power. The Pine brand ancient sword moved. Multicolored light seemingly flew out, easily inhibiting the coping with undergoing rebirth swords. Ancestor longevity raised 2 attack magic weapons, but was completely unable to break her phoenix perch red cloud's clothes. At this time, this truly made ancestor longevity embarrassed to death. Gongsun Huang's eyes showed a sort of deep tranquility. That gaze was extremely elegant. Those who felt inferior would probably feel like ants in her eyes. And this was what ancestor longevity thought, his heart truly very vexed. Seeing Leisure Star Dragon in the clouds break the longevity steel in no rush at all, this made ancestor longevity worried even more. Gongsun Sheng, this old man shall come consult with you. The one famed to be number 1 in magic energy. Ancestor longevity spat out a mouthful of black qi. This black qi condensed into the shape of a giant sword. The sword's body was darkness, flowing black qi. This was the magic weapon that ancestor longevity was proud of, life-breaking sword. This sword's talisman script flowed, the tadpole-sized black and abnormal script endlessly revolving, emitting a frightening light. The life-breaking sword's most powerful aspect was that even if the opponent possessed powerful defensive magic weapons, so long as those were cut by the sword, they would similarly suffer damage like their life-cast magic weapons. Ancestor longevity already settled on the idea to use the life-breaking sword to first make Gongsun Huang lose her calm. To be looked at like this by a 7 to 8-year-old little girl truly made the ancestor longevity, who had lived for so long, very upset. Afterwards, he would use the Yellow Spring sword array to send this Leisure Star on a journey. Gongsun Huang was still dispassionate. She pointed the Pine brand ancient sword. She activated a dark rank star magic. Thunderclap in Evening Breeze. 6 Gongsun Huang had many magics, but those that could complement Heaven Earth Dark Yellow were all powerful spells. This Thunderclap in Evening Breeze was a new dark rank that Leisure Star Dragon in the Clouds could use while wearing the Phoenix Perch Red Cloud's clothes. Although it was not as tyrannical as Half-Destroyed Landscape, it was still overbearing nonetheless. After a boom, the Pine Brand Ancient Sword suddenly displayed an astral wind. This astral wind turned from small to big, from thin to wide. In the blink of an eye, it became an astonishing hurricane of a heaven-supporting pillar. At nearly the same time the astral wind took shape, the topmost part boomed with thunder, and silver arcs of astral wind of varying thickness flickered and jumped, wrapping the powerful hurricane. Under the rook, near the astral wind, the wind roared like a tidal wave. Countless wind blades began to indistinctly take shape. The entire space was full of flying sand and stone, dimming the sky and earth. There was a rumbling, loud noise everywhere, as if it was about to shake apart the main hall. The originally brilliant hall instantly sunk into dusk. Ancestor Longevity was startled. The girl before him appeared calm and collected, yet her mind was terrifyingly meticulous, completely leaving no leeway. Ancestor Longevity activated magic weapons and abilities, covering himself in dazzling green light from head to foot. A layer of protection appeared that enveloped him within. Thunderclap in Evening Breeze suddenly surged even larger. Everything before Ancestor Longevity's eyes was already obscured by the thunderclap and the astral wind. His magic weapon had been blown even harder. As if they were little in a perfect storm, they appeared incomparably tiny. The immense rumbling crushed the green light which cracked. Ancestor Longevity's heart chilled, and he controlled the rebirth swords to protect him. He tightly shut his lips and continuously formed hand seals, his expression very pale. Under Gongsun Huang's urging, Thunderclap in Evening Breeze suddenly roared. Like open floodgates, the power that erupted in that instant cultivators practically as experienced as Ancestor Longevity would feel fear for the first time. Rolls of thunder rumbled, blades of wind rolled, covering him in dense numbers, making his innards seem to split. At this moment, Ancestor Longevity seemed to see his own world crumble. His magic weapons shattered in the blink of an eye, and several layers of his defenses disintegrated, and he seemed to have lost his 5 senses. A screaming whistle filled his ears, and his eyes saw only thunder and lightning, pale wind blades, and even his divine sense was unable to take a half step away. The moment anything left his protection, it was instantly blown to dust by the evil wind and thunder. So frightening. Ancestor Longevity's heart was cold. He now finally could be considered to know why Leisure Star Dragon in the Clouds was the star general that was #1 in magic energy. Magic like this completely could crush the magic weapons of a cultivator. This was still a 3-star destined weapon. If it was a grade higher, perhaps it could match a prehistoric spirit treasure. Ancestor Longevity had the thought to retreat, but upon recalling that the legendary longevity cultivation method was right before his eyes, his heart was particularly unwilling to give up. A big reason he was addressed by others as Ancestor Longevity was because he had consumed many life-extending holy fruits that would make anyone jealous. Ancestor Longevity's talent was far from comparison to other cultivators, but relying on his far superior supercluster cultivator's life energy, he still made a name for himself and became an ancestral master of the Lifeless Hall. But now that Ancestor Longevity's life energy was already nearing its limit, the Longevity Steel's manifestation practically was a chance bestowed by the heavens. How could Ancestor Longevity give up for nothing? However, it was a pity that he came to this bright moon longevity palace unaware that the purple thunder monster would unexpectedly solve and summon the longevity steel. Otherwise, Ancestor Longevity would definitely have brought the 6 paths plate and the sect protecting treasure. Yellow Spring's lifeless diagram. 2. Now was already too late for resentment. Facing Gongsun Huang's thunderclap and Evening Breeze's tyrannical pressure, Ancestor Longevity used all his strength. His attack methods already were suppressed into a defense, like a turtle withdrawing into its shell. The rolls of thunder were increasingly severe, rumbling so that Ancestor Longevity vomited blood. His expression changed. The creaking and cracking sounds from the protection above were increasingly louder and louder, and for the purpose of maintaining this protection, his magic energy's ebb was clearly more severe than before. The might of the Leisure Star's magic could surprisingly still become incessantly stronger. This was the dark rank technique of the #1 magic energy star general. This was too abnormal. How could Ancestor Longevity have known that the full power defense he had staked made Gong Sunhuang greatly surprised? Seeing her first wave of Thunderclap in Evening Breeze unexpectedly not pulverize her target, Gong Sunhuang did not hesitate to use it a second time. Having consumed by Yutong's seemingly drunk and stupefied, the little lowly's execution was never sloppy. Gong Sunhuang bluntly used her dark rank magic. When the second wave of Thunderclap in Evening Breeze squeezed down, the battle now already had completely changed into whoever could last the longest. Ancestor Longevity felt his body was increasingly weary. Several dozen of his life-cast flying swords were already destroyed, leaving him inwardly depressed. He took a deep breath, subconsciously glancing down, searching for another method. Perhaps he could escape into the ground? The moment this idea appeared, at a place several zhang to the side of where he was, he spotted a black twister. Thunder scuttled into the sky from under the ground, quickly swelling and spinning. Suddenly, a suction force came from above. A green light covering unexpectedly could not help, but involuntarily move quickly towards the tornado. Ancestor Longevity's heart shivered. Magic energy concentrated from head to toe into a light covering. Only then did he barely regain traction. Immediately, a dozen black sword lights shot out of the light barrier, spinning around the light barrier and flickering as they interwove. Under the crisscrossing of the sword chi, he clashed with the approaching thundering tornado. Ancestor Longevity only felt that time passed more slowly than the entire lifetime he had lived. Seeing he was unable to continue, Ancestor Longevity already had the idea to retreat. Just at this moment, the clouds broke and revealed the sun. The palace recovered its calm and clarity. The thunder and the astral wind finally stopped. The suffering ended. Ancestor Longevity suddenly glimpsed hope. The old man laughed, and just as he was about to say something bold, he looked up then and his smile stiffened. Gong Sunhuang walked in the sky. The longevity steel beneath her feet had long been shrunken down, and then fell into the palm of her hand. Gong Sunhuang's consecutive use of 2 Thunderclap in Evening Breeze was not because she was bored, but because she did not want anyone to disturb her as she took the longevity steel. While Ancestor Longevity was still struggling, Gong Sunhuang easily picked up the longevity steel. Kill! Ancestor Longevity shouted indignantly. The life-breaking sword became a black light that swiftly slashed. Gong Sunhuang let the life-breaking sword attack. She used a wind rolls the clouds, and then the new heavenly phoenix also appeared, trapping Ancestor Longevity. Ancestor Longevity knew he lost the advantage when he saw this. To stay any longer, other than giving the opponent experience, was completely meaningless. After his fury, Ancestor Longevity immediately became more clear-headed than anyone. He used a divine talisman he had prepared beforehand to become black fog, escaping completely. Ancestor Longevity was able to live this long. His ability to flee with his life was very formidable. Gong Sunhuang's divine intent scanned. Seeing that Ancestor Longevity had truly left, only then did she relax her guard. She lowered her brow to gaze curiously at the rich, jade-like longevity steel in her hand. It glowed with a beautiful rainbow light. Gong Sunhuang raised her head, her pupils slightly alarmed. His Highness. In the first palace, Ning Mei easily killed the supercluster middle stage ancestor Wanli. In the second palace, Wu Xinjie dispatched Xian Zhenzi with room to spare. In the third palace, Suwen and Tang Lianxin's teamwork also obtained that longevity steel from Queen Lady of Ice. In the fourth palace, Yizhen used an absolutely inconceivable technique to crush Yan Chao, for him to die with regrets. In this fifth palace, Leisure Star Little Lowly Gong Sunhuang's Thunderclap in Evening Breeze indeed suppressed ancestor longevity completely like a roll of thunder. In the first 5 palaces, the 5 3-star maidens had things easy. But in this 6th palace, Zhang Yuqi had but met with a big problem. Why should a woman make things difficult for a woman? Zhang Yuqi's white water mirror heart glinted, and a wild bee butterfly wave roared out. A gorgeously dressed female cultivator sneered. She raised her palm. Wind descended, a fluttering, poisonous wind. Flying swords easily broke the wild bee butterfly wave. The urgency's white spirit python drew a white light and bit. The shifting flower sword sex fairy Yingsu disdainfully glanced at her, using a poppy without poison ability. Blooming poppy flowers simultaneously blossomed in the urgency's white spirit python's surroundings. The poison scent wafted, confusing the urgency's white spirit python into not knowing left from right. Zhang Yuqi was inherently a water general. In water, her techniques naturally were fearless when facing supercluster cultivators, but this bright moon longevity palace had nothing at all to offer her. The magic she used was greatly debilitated. Zhang Yuqi was not like her sister, who was versed in martial arts as well. Against the supercluster late-stage fairy Yingsu, she truly was at a disadvantage. Yingsu Yuqi being alone is but somewhat difficult. Zhang Yuqi sighed. White stripe in the waves, tactfully retreat from this immortal. This immortal only wants this longevity steal, and will absolutely not make things difficult for you and your master. Fairy Yingsu shouted. Why should a woman make things difficult for a woman? Zhang Yuqi giggled. Although she was somewhat in a difficult situation, her mouth nevertheless did not concede defeat. Humph, you star generals are only little girls in this immortal's eyes. Fairy Yingsu's mouth was also venomous, surreptitiously mocking that star generals could not lose their virginity. Zhang Yuqi giggled. Yuqi does not want to become just a pretty face, so to think of having Yuqi leave, that truly can't be done. Then you are courting death. Fairy Yingsu sneered. She extended a hand towards her astral stone. A clump of multicolored poison smoke flew out. This smoke dispersed to reveal a giant serpent. This python's whole body was a dark red, covered in odd flower patterns. Its bucket-like girth required 2 adults to be able to wrap around it. Its dark red as blood snakeskin was not only shiny as a mirror, it could also seemingly fly across any surface. Strange stripes extended from the snake's tail, spiraling up to its head and concentrating into an odd flower mark. This flower mark's center had 2 horns. Duoluo flower-marked python. 5. Zhang Yuqi shouted to herself that this was abnormal, immediately recognizing this viper's background. The Duoluo flower-marked python was an ancient python that was not inferior to the urgency's white spirit python. It spat multicolored poison fog, decaying all it touched. Yuqi never expected that the Azure Dragon Territory's cultivators would surprisingly raise such a poisonous thing. Zhang Yuqi's white water mirror heart released a ray of clear blue light, destroying the attacking poison smoke. This Duoluo flower-marked python was considerably difficult to raise. She truly did not understand how the Azure Dragon Territory could have such a formidable cultivator without an inhospitable place. Fairy Yingsu disdainfully smiled. How could Zhang Yuqi have known that the shifting flower sword sect originally hailed from the Vermilion Bird Territory? That place had a world of poison. Every sort of venomous snake and bug were normal animals. It was not strange for supercluster late-stage peak cultivators like Fairy Yingsu to rear a venomous snake. If it was not for carrying this venomous snake taking much of her energy, Fairy Yingsu perhaps could have time to break through to Supervoid stage. This Duoluo flower-marked python heavily bit, opening its maw wide, shooting out a pervasive multicolored poison smoke, wrapping the hall in an odd color. It appeared exceptionally enchanting. Zhang Yuqi continuously used star magic to evade. One fierce lunge of the Duoluo flower-marked python was about to constrict Zhang Yuqi when the urgency's white spirit python charged forth and entangled this flower-marked snake. Zhang Yuqi was too late to sense the pressure. Fairy Yingsu's flying swords at this point slashed without leaving gaps. Although the poison-colored flying swords could not compare to the sword chance of the Azure Dragon Territory in might, these flying swords similarly were forged from highly toxic materials. The sword's edge was dipped in multicolored poison and could not easily be touched. White stripe in the waves, Zhang Yuqi leapt like a fish, like a jumping mermaid. Her 2 golden ponytails unfurled, and the girl drew a gorgeous arc as she evaded the obstruction of the flying swords. Since you do not want to become just a pretty face, then this palace shall come break you. to make you clearly look at yourself. Fairy Yingsu saw that the white stripe in the waves was this awe-inspiring, and the woman's envy flared. Her wrist flipped. A 5-colored bottle gourd appeared. Seeing the gorgeous coloring of this gourd, dazzling, Zhang Yuqi knew what was inside from just a glance. The most poisonous is a woman's heart. Do you have to lay such a saying so bare? Zhang Yuqi very powerlessly said. After the pouring calamity bottle gourd rots your face into ugliness, will your master still want you? 6 Fairy Yingsu maliciously smiled, her expression clearly saying, I envy you, now die. The gourd poured a stream of multicolored poisonous smoke that pounced towards the damaged star. At this moment, Zhang Yuqi already had no place to run. The pouring calamity bottle gourd sprayed multicolored poison fog. The thick and seemingly substantive multicolored poison fog circled around with a pungent fish stench, making Zhang Yuqi dizzy and lightheaded. Encircled from all sides by the poison fog, she could not see her hands in front of her. Before the poison smoke had seized her, Zhang Yuqi already was retching in disgust, her heart alarmed. The white water mirror heart became a white light that protected her, repelling the poison fog more than a chi away from her own body. This pouring calamity bottle gourd was refined from every sort of poisonous thing that Fairy Yingsu had gathered. In the multicolored poison smoke that filled the air, there were every sort of colored poison bugs flying about, miasma picked from every deep forest and mountain, in addition to 5 kinds of highly toxic bug venom, combined with similarly toxic goo. After infection, a person would feel powerless, and their skin would gradually fester. At this time, the goo would enter the body and gnaw on flesh. Yet the person would not immediately die. They would be able to see the goo eat their own body clean. And during this process, the person was unable to move, unable to speak. They would endure boundless torment and pain whilst they were still alive. This was the world's cruelest form of torture. The rolling multicolored poison wrapped around Zhang Yuqi. The white light was devoured by the toxins and began to weaken. Zhang Yuqi's expression was pained. This was not good. When Fairy Yingsu saw that the pouring calamity bottle gourd had trapped the damaged star, she sneered. She then flew towards the longevity steel. Just as Fairy Yingsu was about to break the forbid dance, 2 puppets suddenly appeared behind the longevity steel. The 2 puppets opened their mouths and shot 2 beams of light. Fairy Yingsu waved her sleeve, but she was still knocked back. Fairy Yingsu felt disbelief. She turned her head back to look at the pouring calamity bottle gourd's multicolored poison smoke was still endlessly pouring into the surroundings. It was reasonable to say that even if that damaged star did not die, she ought to have suffered disfigurement. Fairy Yingsu recalled the bottle gourd. The pervasive poison smoke dispersed, yet she saw a ball of dazzling white light. Another young girl had appeared inside the white light at some unknown time. Shi Yuan. Zhang Yuqi did not expect this. Shi Yuan used the Nuwa jade, and 100 zhang white light completely avoided the multicolored poison smoke. The thief star pursed her lips. Sister Xinjie said you alone perhaps wouldn't be able to face a supercluster cultivator. Just let this young lady help you, don't misunderstand. Zhang Yuqi giggled. She knew that because of her accidental encounter in Evil Smiting Hall when she caught sight of Shi Yuan and Su Xing's secret matters. Shi Yuan had always been somewhat brooding. Yuqi thanks little sister. No need. So you rely on the insignificant thief star. Fairy Yingsu said. Don't underestimate this young lady. Shi Yuan waved the puppet banner. More than a dozen giant puppets appeared. Shi Yuan had originally thought of unleashing the 5 poisons puppets, but upon seeing Fairy Yingsu's battle formation was in of itself 5 poisons, she could only dismiss this idea. At the same time she released the puppets, she also raised a dozen spider web talismans. These talismans sprinkled in the air, and became a giant net that covered the sky, moving to enshroud Fairy Yingsu. It was a pity that the 1,000 layers 10,000 calamities web had been destroyed when they faced Chan Master Jia Yi in the Buddhist kingdom. Although this spider web talisman was a high-grade talisman, it was far from as effective in facing a supercluster late-stage cultivator as the 10,000 calamities web. Fairy Yingsu wore a sneer on her face. Then I shall have you watch my, Fairy Yingsu's tricks. One was a water general, and the other was the ranked 107th star general. Fairy Yingsu truly did not fear them, and she even already had the thoughts to make these legendary star maidens suffer. Fairy Yingsu formed the orchid hand seal, activating her powers. A black staff appeared. Black staff shadows filled the skies with an eerie whoosh, rolling towards Shi Yuan and Zhang Yuqi. Then, after it spouted thick, multicolored gas, the pouring calamity bottle gourd suddenly swelled. The spray became a large human skull, which opened its mouth as wide as a basket. Its white teeth glinted with a sharp, clear light. Seeing this, even a diamond would be chomped to pieces. That skull's enormous mouth opened and closed, emitting every sort of multicolored fog. Then she pointed, and her flying swords became 100 extremely fine multicolored lights that sunk into the staff shadows and poison fog. They silently shot towards the two girls. Zhang Yuqi and Shi Yuan did not dare be careless. They circulated their star energy at full power as defense. Fish intestine. Zhang Yuqi giggled and extended a hand. Clang. There was a sound that was as if a divine sword had unsheathed. A blue light that filled the skies rolled towards those pervasive staff shadows, and that enormous multicolored skull. Its power completely covered the staff shadows and the pouring calamity bottle gourd. This fish intestine sword, too, was a heavenly spirit astral treasure that Tang Lianxin had specially forged for Zhang Yuqi. Let alone that Tang Lianxin's reclusiveness made people forget she existed, the girl's thoughts had always been sharp. The first time she saw white stripe in the waves, she vaguely knew something. Afterwards, she used her free time to forge this fish intestine sword from materials that Shi Yuan and Wu Xinjie brought back. By damage star Zhang Yuqi's status as a water general, the other factors of danger for her in combat were not small compared to the thief stars. It was because of this that Tang Lianxin would specially forge this sword, and Zhang Yuqi was very clear about that. The palace's flying swords warped and weft. That top-notch jade that was crafted into the walls was gouged deeply by the fish intestine sword chi. 1,000 cuts and 100 holes. As if 10,000 swords had attacked, yet also as if the 9th firmament had crumbled. The sword light's twinkles were like stars, extremely quick, as if they were only flashes. Every place inside the palace had a sword light, containing Fairy Yingsu's power within. The fish intestine sword was forged using black turtle divine iron, and a prehistoric fish obtained from the connecting heaven ancient tomb. Its speed was quick as lightning. Regardless of whether it was in water or in poison fog, that it would not suffer any effects was the fish intestine sword's greatest characteristic, but its weakness was that it required lots of star energy. Furthermore, its usage time was not very long. It would be destroyed after use, and afterwards it would require water to nurture. Zhang Yuqi hated to part with the fish intestine that Tang Lianxin refined, however, there was no other way now. Fairy Yingsu's myriad powers were so fierce, if she hesitated further, perhaps even a pretty face like hers would be broken. Crash. The black staff magic weapon was brushed by a lightning bolt, splitting into two halves and falling to the ground with a kacha. The giant skull the pouring calamity bottle gourd had sprayed was also twisted to pieces by the sword light, becoming a slightly dark must and disappearing into the air. Fairy Yingsu's 100 flying swords were all knocked aside one after the other by the fish intestine sword. Forged from black turtle divine iron, Fairy Yingsu's flying swords were completely unable to move fish intestine. Shi Yuan watched dumbstruck, endlessly elated. She never expected the fish intestine sword to be so formidable. In the future, she definitely had to have elder sister forge one for her. Shi Yuan itched for her own. Meanwhile, Fairy Yingsu's surroundings suddenly erupted with a murky and viscous red blood fog. She enshrouded herself within, her droning voice coming from within the fog. Never expected you to have even this level of magic weapon. The fish intestine sword light unstably twisted towards Fairy Yingsu's surroundings, attacking her protective blood fog into pieces. But Fairy Yingsu's magic energy was profound. Her abilities were also strange. In short, just when they could kill Fairy Yingsu, they were stopped by a screen of poison fog. Shi Yuan seized this chance to send a puppet to take the longevity steal. The fish intestine sword's light rampaged for a while. Finally, it could no longer continue. This fish intestine sword had been somewhat forged in a rush for the longevity palace before it could be truly completed. Very quickly it lost its sword light. The palace suddenly dimmed, and the entire sea of light created by the sword chi vanished without a trace. Suddenly, a thin blue light emitted from some unknown place, seizing this chance to shoot towards Zhang Yuqi. This blue light was oddly swift beyond compare, instantly reaching right in front of Zhang Yuqi's chest. Shi Yuan was startled. Her figure swayed, and she used a wind-chasing shadow hiding. "Look out!" She pounced. "What are you doing?" Zhang Yuqi had never expected Shi Yuan would surprisingly protect her. The thief star's concealment art was extremely quick, blocking with her hoodwinking flying claws at lightning-fast speed. But that blue light flashed, slipping past the claws and biting into Shi Yuan's shoulder. It hurt enough to pale the thief star's face, but she clearly let Zhang Yuqi escape a disaster. "Using your body as a shield? You truly are close as sisters." Fairy Yingsu was even more envious. Su Xing said we need to care for each other. This young lady only feels she must follow Su Xing. This young lady learned this from Su Xing. Shi Yuan was stubborn. This truly made Yuqi speechless. Zhang Yuqi truly was tongue-tied. Stupid. How can there be a logic of Star Master taking a blow for the Star General? This is truly ridiculous. Fairy Yingsu waved her hand, destroying several of the annoying puppets. How could an ugly woman like you understand? Shi Yuan pointed, and she released several puppets to guard the longevity steel. Zhang Yuqi's white water mirror heart used all rivers reach seas, and the fish intestine sword returned radiantly, becoming a sword light that slashed towards Fairy Yingsu's chest. Fairy Yingsu roared, and a bloody seal the size of a shield appeared in front of her body. Clang! Clang! Metallic ringing sounds ringed throughout the entire palace. These were the sounds of the fish intestine sword and Fairy Yingsu's magic weapons clashing. A stream of sparks burst like fireworks from the impacts. "Can you block this blood spider seal?" Fairy Yingsu sneered. The blood spider seal was constructed from a piece of crimson jade left behind from antiquity. It was soaked in a highly toxic sea of blood for a full 18 months. In the case, a cultivator was touched by the blood spider seal, their essence blood would be sucked dry in a short time. This was Fairy Yingsu's most powerful magic weapon. When Zhang Yuqi saw that Fairy Yingsu was going all out, she hastily formed a hand seal in secret. The fish intestine sword swung, blue light radiating, resolutely obstructing the bloodlight of the blood spider seal. Turning around, it whirled back and forth. Fairy Yingsu was angry at herself for being pinned by two star generals that were without any martial force to speak of. She had the idea to quickly end the battle. Now she caught sight of that blue light about to come back. Fairy Yingsu feared there was some other trick. How could she let it run off? Since the blood spider seal had appeared, it was too regretful for it to not suck in the essence blood of some star generals. A multicolored poison sprayed out. The blood spider seal became a bloody shadow, surprisingly flying forth. It instantly pursued to above the fish intestine, manifesting a giant bloody spider, ruthlessly grabbing downwards. This blood spider seal was a full 3 zhang in size, its whole body covered in bloodlight. Its blood vessel-like markings vaguely had fine talisman script moving about. Ding-dang. 3. The fish intestine sword manifested the shadow of a prehistoric fish that was as long as a knife. This fish's blue light glowed, and the blood spider seal's bloody spider's bloodlight descended, rolling like layers of silk over the fish. The fish struggled endlessly, its knife point sharply cutting apart the rolling blood web. Zhang Yuqi continuously formed hand seals, imbuing her star energy into the fish intestine saber, dueling against Fairy Yingsu. "Yuqi, I'll come help you." Shi Yuan saw the two were deadlocked, suddenly shouting. The thief star dares to boast in front of this immortal, why not just give up? Fairy Yingsu sinisterly smiled. Her thin as a baby's voice revealed a sharp malevolence. There was another shriek. Using a hand to point, the 100 multicolored flying swords glowed even brighter. Rainbow smoke diffused, illuminating the palace in incomparably enchanting colors. The sword light revolved under Fairy Yingsu's hand seals, launching, swifter than lightning. Instantly, it became 5 beautiful streams of sword light that were 10 times thicker, with a length of several dozen zhang. The front end was like a hook, as if it was the demonic talon of a bird. When it grabbed at Shi Yuan's head, It was powerful, fierce and evil. A howling wind that broke the air and earth was very strange, releasing a sobbing sound, heart-rending. Immediately afterwards, demonic shadows floated on all sides. The flying swords released an extremely fragrant scent, one that made a person's limbs turn numb, their magic energy disappear. This was the flying sword array, poppy sword array. The sword light instantly attacked Shi Yuan. The two supercluster stage puppets that Shi Yuan had released were too late to brandish their ferocity, and were incapacitated by the smoke, falling limp. Then the sword light moved, and the two supercluster puppets surprisingly disintegrated like this. Shi Yuan's jaw dropped when she saw this. Fairy Yingsu smiled complacently. Her flying sword array was far unlike the Azure Dragon Territory's sword arrays. The poppy sword array used every sort of poison in its refinement. The sword light let out a sweet scent. If someone were to smell it, all of their meridians and pores would be completely sealed. Even if a puppet did not have the five senses, this poppy sword array's odd scent could even bewitch the soul. The two supercluster early-stage puppets naturally could not withstand it. The puppets broke, the flying swords twisted, about to attack Shi Yuan. Shi Yuan. Zhang Yuqi saw that Shi Yuan was in big trouble. Without even thinking, her divine intent moved. The fish intestine sword no longer cared for the blood spider seal and flew over. Rip. A ray of blue light seemed to be ripped apart by lightning. A crystalline sword light of unknown length slammed into the poppy sword array head-on. The fish intestine sword's blue light magnified, and it poured down half a sea's worth of water to block the multicolored poison smoke sword array. The poison smoke and blue light struggled against each other, rumbling. The fish intestine sword broke in half, and the poppy sword array was struck apart. You slut, you are courting death. Fairy Yingsu cursed. Her hand then pointed. The blood spider seal's bloodlight was glaring. The huge blood spider bit. Without the support of the fish intestine sword, Zhang Yuqi could only raise the 4-star white water mirror heart for protection, but this blood spider seal's bloodlight rolled endless. The blood spider seal ferociously pounded, its power directly piercing through Zhang Yuqi's body. The girl was unable to bear it, and vomited a mouthful of blood. Her blood sprayed, and was ravenously devoured by the blood spider seal. The blood spider seal sucked in Zhang Yuqi's essence blood. Its bloodlight was even more full, and an enormous blood spider phantom manifested sinisterly. Hey! The hoodwinking flying claws seized the blood spider seal with difficulty. Shi Yuan flashed to the front of Zhang Yuqi. To be saved by you is truly annoying. Shi Yuan puffed her cheeks. Zhang Yuqi wanted to laugh. Her chest hurt, and then she spat out more blood. You alright? Shi Yuan said, worried. The hoodwinking flying claws did not neglect to hold tight the blood spider seal. Zhang Yuqi endured the taste in her mouth and nodded. Fairy Yingsu descended before them, enviously contorting. Relying on just the two of you to stop me, today, this immortal shall have the blood spider seal properly taste the blood of star generals. Although the flying swords were damaged by the fish intestine sword, this blood spider seal was increasingly plump after tasting Zhang Yuqi's blood. The bloodlight was pretty, and blood-colored lotus flowers bloomed in succession, displaying an unordinary profundity. The spider-like bloodlight rolled downwards. Zhang Yuqi saw Shi Yuan was already very weak. She endured her injuries to use white water mirror heart, adding it in. Their combined powers faced the oppression of the blood spider seal. Fairy Yingsu continuously poured in magic energy. Seeing that Zhang Yuqi and Shi Yuan were both already arrows at the end of their paths, she could not help but grin. Die. Just at this moment, there was a sudden air-shattering noise. The newcomer's speed was extremely fast. Fairy Yingsu's protective bloodlight was nearly broken. The female cultivator's reactions were prompt, and she immediately turned around, fanning her sleeve and pulling away to a safe distance. The newcomer was an absolutely beautiful young woman. She wore revealing blue clothes, had a wonderful figure, and her eyes were full of a deep sorrow as if she had seen something pitiful. However, this sort of feeling only made Fairy Yingsu suddenly angry. Golden Wind Jade do double sabers. Another star general? Hunyangzi's gaze was emotionless. Before Fairy Yingsu could say anything, her pace unfolded like mist. Her double sabers already attacked without any hesitation. This slash was just like the misty rain of the Changjiang River. Spectacular, the golden light and green rays intertwined, and a scarlet blood red were torn apart. Bright Star Husanyang did not leave any room at all, with no gaps, no holes. The double sabers were like wild animals brandishing their fangs, yet also like the crescent moon among the stars. The frozen atmosphere was torn apart by the beautiful light, letting out a faint scream. The saber's edge that was nearly within reach attacked. However, compared to the terror of these double sabers, in Fairy Yingsu's twisted envy, what was even more glaring nevertheless was the calm flame in her counterpart's eyes. Those pure yet slightly distressed eyes recounted the unique beauty's grief. This revelation that even the heavens' pities was like a frail yet sharp razor, making Fairy Yingsu even more twisted. Hey! Fairy Yingsu did not hesitate at all to strike with a palm. The girl's double sabers were very tyrannical. Clearly, she wanted to settle things with one strike, so how could Fairy Yingsu dare be careless? Fortunately, the blood spider seal had eaten its fill of a star general's blood, and was now unexcelled. It drew an elegant trail of blood as it smashed its way over, slamming into the double sabers without any ceremony. With a bang, the palace shook. The blood spider seal leaving greatly alleviated the pressure on Shi Yuan and Zhang Yuqi. The two girls wanted to go help, but they were obstructed by Fairy Yingsu's flying swords. Go take the longevity steel, Hunyangzi coldly said. We will trouble elder sister then. Shi Yuan endured her injuries. She used wind-chasing shadow hiding and disappeared. As if. Fairy Yingsu was enraged. She used the pouring calamity bottle gourd to stop her. Mermaid Zhang Yuqi leapt in front of her, wearing a crafty grin, blinking her eyes that were bright as pearls. Yuqi certainly has to fulfill her obligations as a good elder sister. Saying this, the whitewater mirror heart used all rivers reach seas. An eddy of air immediately rolled in the multicolored poison fog. This young lady didn't ask you. Shi Yuan grumbled. She still could not help but smile as she reached the longevity steel. Damn it. The previously prideful Fairy Yingsu was very unsightly at this moment. She completely did not anticipate that a star general with martial force would interfere, and that it would even be a martial general the likes of an earthly star, four great heavenly kings. God damn it. Fairy Yingsu formed hand seals. The blood spider seal spun in the sky, releasing an immense red furry jade spider. How could Fairy Yingsu sit and wait for death? She looked helplessly as the longevity steel fell into their hands. Hunyangzi disdainfully grunted, raising her eyebrows. The next moment, the blood spider seal suddenly swelled. 8 spider legs like sharp razors unfolded, accompanied with a pouncing movement. Earth-shattering bloodlight shot out of the blood spider seal, directly launching towards Hunyangzi. Bright Star 10 feet of blue promptly stepped backwards, her double sabers tyrannical. Fairy Yingsu sneered. Her hand seals changed, and the blood shadow of the blood spider seal also morphed. It suddenly appeared behind Hunyangzi, and this time, it broke through Hunyangzi's defenses without any slowdown. Even Hunyangzi was quite surprised. This immortal shall take your blood as well. Fairy Yingsu laughed aloud. The next instant, Hunyangzi's next action similarly made Fairy Yingsu unable to laugh anymore. Bright Star 10 feet of blue used her magnificent footwork, dancing like smoke, her figure like a phantom. The next second, the person herself inconceivably broke away from the blood spider seal's smash. Then, Fairy Yingsu's eyes were blinded. Hunyangzi already arrived in front of her. Flying star magpie dance. So fast. Her superb judgment and skill immediately made the Fairy Yingsu who had taken the initiative put on a sorry defense. Though lengthy in narration, this was but an instant. Golden wind and jade dew slashed like falling rain. The blade's tips crossed at speeds not visible to the naked eye. Fairy Yingsu's protective bloodlight magic weapon and powers endlessly were crumbled by the severe power of the blades. From time to time, the air would be carried by a sharp slash, and then, it would immediately let out an intense ripping sound. Not only this, even the palace itself was rolled into the fierce battle, collapsing one after another. Luminous sparks and speed with afterimages dazzled the eyes. The Fairy Yingsu in the middle of the saber shadows seemed to be bearing the weight of a mountain, unable to move an inch. So powerful. Fairy Yingsu promptly made a hand seal. The blood spider seal hovered above her, flowing with a terrible bloodlight that was like a waterfall enveloping her. Hunyangzi did not give Fairy Yingsu any chance to breathe. After her dark technique, it was another flying star magpie dance. Endless and continuous. You are too savage. Fairy Yingsu venomously smiled. Suddenly, the bloodlight over her whole body abruptly transformed into a sword. The endless poison fog pervaded the entire palace, wrapping towards Hunyangzi under Fairy Yingsu's beckoning. Bright Star Husanyang withdrew. Suddenly, her left hand waved and something appeared. But her eyes were obstructed by the bloodlight, so Fairy Yingsu did not see clearly. Just as she was about to kill Husanyang, suddenly at this moment, the bloodlight broke, layer after layer, and a red lasso flew towards her. Fairy Yingsu was surprised. She completely did not expect the bright star to have another star weapon. These feelings are endless lassos phantoms appeared. Instantly 1 became 2, 2 became 4 numerous as if weaving a net. Fairy Yingsu was too late to counter, and was seized by these feelings are endless lasso. Hunyangzi's left hand pulled, and her right hand saber closed in. Fairy Yingsu raised her head and screamed when she saw this. Golden and green light enveloped Hunyangzi. She slashed directly at the target. In the midst of the metallic sound of cutting through air, she shot into the surroundings a crackling sound that seemed to instantly freeze everything. Fairy Yingsu's scream lodged in her throat. Her mouth froze, and in that instant she was still wielding the blood spider seal like a weapon. That red lasso net trapped all of her movements. The air no longer flowed, and energy ceased transmission. These feelings are endless lasso released several hundred odd red lights that were like specters that changed into rainbows. And even the wind involved had forgotten to stir. As if the river of time had forgotten to flow this instant. Dark rank lasso technique. Weaving feelings. Golden and green saber lights glared before Fairy Yingsu. Hunyangzi instantly was behind her. By the time Fairy Yingsu realized it, her contorted head was already rolling on the ground. The entire battle sequence was quick as lightning, passing in the blink of an eye. The head and body of the insufferably arrogant Fairy Yingsu thus were in different places. Hunyangzi's dark technique weaving feelings, and her double saber technique so brilliant that even Zhang Yuqi stared in amazement. Shi Yuan clicked her tongue when she saw this. But Fairy Yingsu's death did not mean that the world was at peace. A shrill shriek. When the Duoluo flower-marked python saw its master had died, it spread its multicolored fangs, flinging the urgent sea's white spirit python away. Then, the Duoluo flower-marked python opened its maw to show a malevolent and sinister mouth. It nevertheless wanted to bite apart Hunyangzi to avenge its master. Hunyangzi coldly glanced at it. Her dance steps moved and swaying. She already arrived in front of the Duoluo flower-marked python. Golden wind and jade dew made ready, prepared strike while the iron was hot, adding on several more wounds to this snake. The Duoluo flower-marked python made an error in its reckoning of Hunyangzi's battle strength. The 5-star golden wind and jade dew easily tore apart its barrier of poison fog, cutting it up with wounds that dripped blood. The Duoluo flower-marked python's horns let out a multicolored light that descended like a sword. Hunyangzi slashed it apart. Saberchi directly stuck in, lacerating the Duoluo flower-marked python's flesh. The next slash once again approached. This ancient strange beast Duoluo flower-marked python knew it was in danger. Seeing the situation was unfavorable, it immediately soared upwards, dodging, pulling a certain distance away from Bright Star Hunyangzi. This ancient strange beast's reactions were actually quick. Bright Star Hunyangzi missed her chance to kill this Duoluo flower-marked python. Her heart could not help but feel some slight regret, but this python was injured, and its strength was greatly debilitated. To slay it was actually not an impossible task. 10 feet of blue did not hesitate. Her foot stamped on the ground, and she soared up, rushing towards the Duoluo flower-marked python. The Duoluo flower-marked python stared squarely at Bright Star Hunyangzi. Its red and black eyes glowed, like radiant light in the night, the red and black scales covering its enormous body occasionally moving, bringing a howling gale. Its back had an enormous wound, as if it had been violently ripped open by a sort of powerful force. Blood flowed from the wound, dripping onto the ground, forming into puddles. The duoluo flower-marked python opened its jaws, spraying out a highly toxic multicolored poison fog. The poison fog covering everything alleviated its pain. But what was even more painful came after. The double sabers stabbed out a hurricane. A beautiful figure gracefully descended. The duoluo flower-marked python urgently flicked its long tongue. It itched to be able to slowly chew apart this woman that was even more evil than itself, to swallow her into its stomach. Now that its counterpart was about to rush in front of it, it suddenly twisted its body, flinging its enormous snake tail. Bright Star Hunyangzi heard a whoosh, and a gale blew. Immediately afterwards, the rays of light above her dimmed, and a fierce power, like Mount Tai's weight, bore down on her. Husanyang hastily lowered her body, afterwards dodging to the left. Boom! The duoluo flower-marked python's tail brushed past her body, heavily drawing out a large hole in the poison fog, curling the clouds and mist, the pervasive gas. It turned the air even more murky and sinister. Its strike did not land. The duoluo flower-marked python did not give Bright Star Hunyangzi any chance to catch her breath. It immediately began its second wave of attacks. It opened its mouth, and several dozen rays of poison smoke spewed out one after another, like tiny pythons hissing, baring their fangs as they pounced at Hunyangzi, terrifying. But they were completely unable to obstruct that wonderful blue figure. The duoluo flower-marked python sensed danger. It again thought to sweep its tail. This time, a white light rolled over ruthlessly, binding the duoluo flower-marked python. It was the Urgent Sea's white spirit python. This Urgent Sea's white spirit python was a powerful star beast, and it bit onto the duoluo flower-marked python's horns, spitting out a white light. When Hunyangzi saw, her silhouette flew and mounted the blood-sweat silver hair horse. Spurring it, she matched with the star beast's powerful charge to put the duoluo flower-marked python onto the verge of collapse, finally rushing past the ancient strange beast's defenses. Then, Hunyangzi's golden wind and jade dew double sabers twisted over the duoluo flower-marked python's body, cleaving it in two. A multicolored soul flew out, and was just about to be cut apart by Hunyangzi. "Elder sister, give it to me." Shi Yuan cried out in alarm when she saw this. Hunyangzi's blade stopped. Shi Yuan took out a jade bottle, and the duoluo flower-marked python's soul was sucked into the bottle. The thief star laughed out loud. "Too good. This young lady finally has this prehistoric 5 poisons beast. It seems this young lady's 5 poisons banner still has hope to become the 5 concealed banner." Following Fairy Yingsu's death and the destruction of the duoluo flower-marked python, the palace regained its calm. Zhang Yuqi looked displeased at the poison fog obscuring everything, so she used the white water mirror heart to wash it away. "Shi Yuan, do you have the longevity steel?" Zhang Yuqi asked. Shi Yuan woke from her daydreams of the prehistoric 5 concealed banner. She proudly waved her hand, and a small tablet appeared in her palm. This was the longevity steel of the 6th palace. Zhang Yuqi breathed a sigh of relief and wiped her sweat. This time truly was incomparably risky. Encountering the evil Fairy Yingsu, this female cultivator's powers honestly were outrageously outside of common sense. "Fortunately you came, Nyangzi." "Yes, why did Sister Nyangzi come here? Have you gotten the 7th palace's longevity steel?" Shi Yuan asked curiously. Hunyangzi nodded. In her palm appeared a longevity steel. "Sister Nyangzi is truly amazing, to surprisingly obtain it so quickly," Shi Yuan said in admiration. In actuality, from Hunyangzi's perspective, this actually was very easy. She had also used weaving feelings on the supercluster cultivator she encountered at the 7th palace. Weaving her feelings, that cultivator and Fairy Yingsu both were flabbergasted. And Hunyangzi's body techniques were also extremely quick. Trapped like this, if those cultivators did not have life-preserving tricks, they naturally could not avoid Bright Star 10 feet of blue's flying star magpie dance. It had to be known that this 10 feet of blue title actually meant a viper who waited for its opportunity to strike. However, killing 2 supercluster peak ancestors in succession made Bright Star Hunyangzi feel very exhausted. Even if she had drank Tong Tong seemingly drunk and intoxicated, This made Hunyangzi already drained, too tired, but to take the longevity steal made everything worth it. Dear husband's location has some rainbow light anomaly. It seems there is a situation. We should hurry over. Hunyangzi said to her sisters. Zhang Yuqi and Shi Yuan nodded. The three girls promptly flew out of the palace. 7th Palace. The Tai Sword Sect's ancestral master's corpse wordlessly lay alone on the ground. Its head had long rolled away. The surroundings were sprinkled with many pieces, and the aged face was full of shock. As far as the eye could see, there was an elevated platform. That place originally had placed a longevity steal, but it was now empty. Shi Yu and Zhang Feiyu rushed towards the Bright Moon Longevity Palace's 8th hall, and she herself was the sole star master. Although the longevity steal was so enticing, Wu Xinjie was still considerably relieved to leave this to them. However, the danger level of the 8th palace could be calculated even by the knowledge star in her wonderful plans and schemes. When Shi Yu and Zhang Feiyu reached the 8th palace, there was already a purple-skirted young lady already there first, marveling at the longevity steal. Lady, that thing doesn't belong to you. Boatman Zhang Feiyu sneered. She raised the blazing fish king's saber and pounced. A dazzling fire dragon ignited, flung forth from the saber. The purple-skirted girl turned her head, sweetly smiled, and a magic weapon flew out to meet the flames. However, Zhang Feiyu's saber technique was powerfully exhibited, very tyrannical, recklessly twisting down. The young girl had no choice but to leap backwards, gently landing on the 2nd level. Then could it be yours? The girl's smile was like a spring breeze. She was Humi of the Purple Firmament Immortal Palace. Seeing that she was surprisingly a supervoid stage great cultivator, how could Shi dare be careless? She secretly used sound transmission to have Zhang Feiyu steal the tablet. Then she beckoned and summoned her flying swords. Humi extended her hand and gently pointed. Purple flying swords simultaneously descended. The two girls' flying swords gathered in formation and attacked. Two kinds of sword light shuttled back and forth. Humi's flying swords manifested a purple smoke over themselves. In the air, their fast flight time nevertheless did not let out the slightest noise, as if they were as obscured as mist. This is. Shi Yu immediately recognized the background of this sword chant. Purple Firmament 9 Palaces Filling Heaven Sword. The Purple Firmament 9 Palaces Filling Heaven Sword was the Purple Firmament Immortal Palace's sole sword chant. Shi Yu had once learned of it when she stayed in the Azure Dragon territory. This sword's most wondrous aspect was that it could lay a 9 palaces execution immortal sword array. 2. And this Purple Firmament Immortal Palace had once produced an Overlord. For this reason, all Star Masters specially remembered that if they were to encounter the Star Master of the Purple Firmament Immortal Palace, they absolutely were not to fall into the sword array. Do you still want to continue? Humi blinked. Shi Yu had a sort of odd feeling. Although the young woman before her was supervoid cultivation, she was no older than herself. On the contrary, she had a sort of little sister pattern. Perhaps the Purple Firmament Immortal Palace had some secret techniques. Shi Yu did not dare be careless. Shi Yu ingested good fortune pills to bolster her cultivation. And in these days together with Su Xing, although she was somewhat smitten, none of her powers had fallen behind. On the contrary, she borrowed those all-inclusive beauties of Su Xing. Shi Yu sought out Tang Lianxin to refine swords, and in Suwen to refine many pills. Her illusion reality flying swords were far more exquisite than before, and were enhanced with Taiji Gung metal. 3. The flying swords gathered, turning a faint blue-green color. Yet they also had a sort of translucent feel. During their flight, they did not have the slightest bit of burning chi. They were not inferior at all to the Purple Firmament 9 Palaces Filling Heaven sword. The two sword lights were about the same size. From time to time, they clashed in midair. Each impact exploded with an extremely severe gung metal chi in all directions. But every time these gung metal chi were about to shoot towards Humi's body, purple light flashed, and 9 thin as a cicada's wing palaces would appear in the space between. A gate of more than a zhang in length, and the inside smoke and clouds would be destroyed. Light flickered, twinkling endlessly. The moment the gung metal chi fell within the gate, it was like mud washed into the sea, disappearing without a trace. This was Humi's 9 palaces array. Humi's hand seals changed in succession. That sword light of purple smoke twisted, splitting to become more than 100 qi-long lights that formed a net of purple light, firmly entangling those faint green translucent flying swords. No matter how hard Shiyu struggled, the flying swords could not budge in the slightest. Shiyu wiped her sweat and used illusion reality powers. Humi smiled. This elder sister had better give up. You are not my opponent. From but one exchange of flying swords, Shiyu immediately understood that the young girl in front of her was not jesting. Those flying swords honestly were far too strong compared to her own. Your servant will not fail, my lord. Shiyu's expression changed. My lord. Humi was tongue-tied. Did she mishear? What do you address the purple thunder monster as? Humi stuck out her cute tongue. Her girlishness made Shiyu convinced that the young girl in front of her was younger than her, but to have super void cultivation at such a young age, all of Lianxin could not possibly have produced such a genius, unless Shiyu's whole body shuddered. Instantly she felt chills. Unless she was a Star Master. The purple Firmament Immortal Palace's Super Void Stage Star Master. This was bad. My lord. Did you not hear clearly? Shiyu broke into a cold sweat. She had once seen human evil inside the Flower Dragon Cave, even nearly losing her life. Even after she had arrived in the Black Turtle territory and accidentally became a Star Master, she was far from training to be at peace with herself. Shiyu's eyes very quickly flashed with slight fear. Her divine intent loosened, and the supreme ultimate gung metal flying swords nearly broke. Shiyu Zhangfeiyu's alarmed voice made Shiyu steel herself. Humi still had an indifferent appearance. Seeing the boatman go break the longevity steel, she was neither rushed nor lax, neither warm nor angry. On the contrary, she was full of interest in gossiping and asked, "You surprisingly call the purple thunder monster my lord. Could you be husband and wife? Could it be your servant is not?" Shiyu answered back sarcastically. This is truly outside of expectations. Humi was pensive. Shiyu saw that there was still a young and naive nature in the heart of the girl in front of her. This was perfect to exploit. Therefore she said, "Your servant has never heard of the purple Firmament Immortal Palace. Why do you meddle in this? My lord has not offended you at all. Master's orders. Little sis has no choice." Humi blinked, slightly smiling. Little sis wishes to ask this elder sister. Your servant is Shiyu. Little sis' name is Humi. Little sis is very perplexed. The purple thunder monster surprisingly has so many top-notch star generals following him. May little sis be so bold as to ask elder sister, Shiyu, just what is the meaning of this? Humi curiously asked. Shiyu had just thought of saying that they wholeheartedly admired my lord, but she realized saying this was somewhat inappropriate. Thus she changed her words. My lord naturally was sent by Maiden Mountain. The 9 generations of star duels are regarded as a cycle, and this 9th generation is the time for the star duels to end. What? Humi was stunned, honestly thinking she was being deceived. Sent by Maiden Mountain? Does elder sister feel little sis is so easy to fool? Humi was not convinced. You are right that Lianxin continent regards 9 as the world, but Maiden Mountain would never send a star master. This is rather too irregular. Then what does little sister feel this means? My lord unexpectedly was able to obtain Wu Song, Lin Cheng, Yan Qing, Gong Sun Sheng and even Chai Jin's accompaniment? Shiyu asked back. Humi wrinkled her brow. Since elder sister is not willing to speak the true reason, then there is no other way. Saying this, Humi hovered into the air, suddenly letting out a supervoid-like might. Shiyu was no more than supercluster middle stage. How could she bear this? Very quickly, her hands and feet stiffened. This is bad. This girl looks innocent, but she is in fact not easy to trick. As expected, the purple Firmament Immortal Palace was not so simple. Humi smiled. The flying sword's gale descended. Shiyu was without a choice, striking hand seals and activating a magic weapon. This banner suddenly grew in size, firing spirit light that enshrouded Shiyu within. Heaven-departing spirit distribution banner. Surprisingly a prehistoric magic weapon. Humi recognized that this treasure was a considerably powerful defensive magic weapon. Even her super void stage flying swords were helpless against it. Humi shook her banner. Spirit light rippled and struck Shiyu's flying swords, entangling even Humi's own flying swords at the same time. Although this would waste much of her star energy, Shiyu was very clear that she was completely not this young girl's opponent. The sole thing she could do was to exploit her star general advantage when the young girl had not summoned her own star general, and was overconfident to kill her while she was unprepared. This was the sole thing that Shiyu could do. Boatman Zhang Feiyu sensed Shiyu's resolution and inwardly nodded, suddenly soaring as she broke the longevity steel's forbid dance. Grasping the blazing fish king saber, she slashed at Humi. With a star general's power, Super Void early stage was not considered too big of a trouble. But how could Humi's prior efficient and direct action be arrogant? The girl slightly smiled, also releasing magic weapon for protection. Is there any use? Zhang Feiyu sneered. Her saber slashed. The blazing fish king saber's flames fluttered in clumps, igniting saber light around Zhang Feiyu that filled the skies, like a burning flower bud. These flower buds gathered to attack Humi under Zhang Feiyu's divine intent. Dark technique. Fire tree silver flower. Just at this moment, a golden light flew out, directly descending. Bang. Hearing the impact of the weapon, sparks showered in all directions. Zhang Feiyu's smile suddenly disappeared. A weapon of glittering gold light appeared that blocked Balance Star Boatman's dark technique. The dispersed flaming saber slammed into that target, producing an explosion. Zhang Feiyu continuously withdrew, showing an expression of shock. This is... Elder Sister Shiyu, it would be better if we might as well star duel. Humi facetiously cocked her head. She pointed a white finger, issuing a challenge. Shiyu's expression was cold to the extreme. The worst-case scenario had happened. Explosions dispersed. In front of purple firmament fairy Humi, there was already another young woman. This maiden appeared gorgeous as a flower. She wore a light blue muslin shirt, was draped in goosefeather-patterned golden armor, and had a cloak of white silk. A faint breeze blew by, giving her the sort of feeling of a fluttering immortal. Her black hair spilled across her shoulders, outlining her gentle beauty that was without even a bit of makeup. The young girl wore a sky-soaring golden cap, phoenix shoes, and her face had an indolent expression, an absent-minded gaze. She appeared frivolous, even giddy, but that expression's depths concealed a chilling murderous intent. She was like Humi. Under her lovely exterior was very deep perception. However, what made Shiyu even more stifled was the star crest on the young girl's forehead. As expected, a star general. Star Master. Shiyu tightly pursed her lips, a very unsightly expression. Elder sister Shiyu has actually already guessed it, correct? Humi slight smiled, seeing through her with a glance. That young girl held a weapon of glittering gold light, but even without looking, Shiyu could guess the position of that star general. The purple firmament Immortal Palace once produced a star master that contracted with the ranked 18th guardian star Ning. Two can it be? Humi replied. It would be better if elder sister Shiyu and little sis make a mutually beneficial exchange. What? Shiyu was caught completely off guard. For Humi to speak of a deal right now was surprising. Elder sister Shiyu and little sis shall cooperate. Tell little sis everything about the purple thunder monster, and little sis will not trouble elder sister. Shiyu jeered. Why should your servant agree? Elder sister Shiyu is truly unwilling to even feign civility. Humi smiled. How regrettable. Enough nonsense. I, Feiyu, shall come teach you a lesson. Hiding your star weapon in golden light. Today, elder sister shall skin you clean and see just who you are. Zhang Feiyu shouted in her hoodlum style. She took several steps forward, springing forth and slashing. Yingsu then star duel with this little sister. Humi calmly ordered. As you command. Yingsu's indolent expression swept. Suddenly she lifted her head. Those frivolous eyes suddenly flashed with light, a glint that made people unable to see clearly. The golden light glared. Metallic ringing and sparks suddenly filled the air. What kind of terrifying speed was this? Yingsu already swept her lance towards Zhang Feiyu. And Zhang Feiyu's heart was overwhelmed with shock at the same time. Her reactions were incomparably quick. As a dual martial and magic star general, her close combat martial force was a bit lacking. Her hands crossed to block, pouncing head-on into the bone-chilling presence. "Is that it?" Yingsu said, making Zhang Feiyu feel as if her skin had been peeled. This bastard was a frightening heavenly star. Yingsu lowered her shoulders, swept her jade arms, and her lance flashed with an odd pattern and an eerie golden light. A powerful force proliferated, but with a shudder, it was a wave-like killing intent. The Jingsu in front of her was clearly very strong. Her attacks were carried out at an extremely high level, but Zhang Feiyu was not willing to concede defeat. Facing Jingsu appeared simple. In reality, her tyrannical assault was being suppressed. Both sides exchanged blows for several bouts and then retreated, a slight sampling of their positions. Balanced star boatman Zhang Heng Ha. This general is somewhat unable to become interested. Jingsu made a lazy yawn, making Xiyu speechless. Zhang Feiyu laughed and then narrowed her eyes, lewdly saying, "Elder sister will make you die from excitement." She raised her saber, running her finger along its flat side. Light glinted, and the mirror-like surface reflected Zhang Feiyu's sharp pupils. Billowing flames ignited on the saber, starting to slowly form into a leaping fish. Jingsu pretended she did not hear. She grabbed her lance in one hand, a very dull expression. "Right now let elder sister give you pleasure." Zhang Feiyu's voice was unsympathetic, slowly passing by, a sort of pressure that covered everything. Jingsu's brows rose. Her heart unexpectedly had a vague nervous or excited mood. Seriously? This general truly seems to have not been pleasured in a long time. The girl cocked her head, earnestly thinking over Zhang Feiyu's words. The boatman cursed to herself. Was this woman an idiot? Was her provocation completely ineffective? It seemed this was a formidable opponent. However, just as she was about to experience it, like a demon's long laugh, Zhang Feiyu brandished the Flaming Fish King saber. Instantly, with her as the center, the Flaming Fish King saber's fire expanded in a split second, swelled, and an insufferably arrogant blaze roared towards Jingsu. "Take this!" Zhang Feiyu coldly shouted. Just like a declaration of death, she acted without any mercy. Jingsu closed one eye, an apparently careless appearance, yet the corner of her lips could not help but slightly curl. She raised her divine weapon, imparting her power without the slightest hesitation, flowing with resonance. A golden light emerged, unleashing an incorporeal defense. Even though Jingsu used a full-power defense, but she still unavoidably took a step back. Zhang Feiyu's frantic blazing Fish King saber slammed over. Those forces invisible to the eyes were like a tsunami, tearing everything along the sides to shreds. Even the palace showed signs of breaking in half. The berserk flames rampantly struck Jingsu and lifted an air current. "Oh wow, this little sister is very fierce." Jingsu turned her defense. Each attack made her feel a sort of heavy pressure, and the corner of lips curled slightly even further. Her body could not help but involuntarily step back, and then she continuously slid backwards. Bang! The flame's continuous attack had already nearly encircled Jingsu, engulfing her. Gritting her teeth, she put strength to her legs. A golden light roared out. The fierce power was like a tsunami, instantly extinguishing the flames. Jingsu finally launched her fatal attack. Jingsu's extremely fast charge broke through Zhang Feiyu's flaming saber technique, and her figure was already in front of her in an instant. This swiftness made Zhang Feiyu feel grave, but the boatman did not stay still at all. Yellow technique, Fish Dragon Roaming Fire. Boatman Zhang Feiyu shouted, slashing the Flaming Fish King saber. A surging flame burned out of the blade's edge. This was the boatman's true special move. All of the flames that had been dispersed instantly gathered, becoming an unstoppable heavenly canopy in the clear eyes of Jingsu. What appeared was enveloped in flames that could burn even the world. Those flames became a long fish that swam and smothered all of her escape routes. At this moment, even Jingsu was too late to even think of evading. Zhang Feiyu used the Fish Dragon Roaming Fire without any reservation. The entire space was burning up, the flames quickly spreading. Boom! From the perspective of the sky, Humi saw a spectacular scene. Those flames spread without limit, like a blossoming flower bud. The flames bloomed, layer after layer, opening spiritually moving flower petals. In those flower petals, there were fire fishes that leapt out, leaping out extremely beautiful. It seemed that balanced star boatman deserved her renown. However, if she thought she could defeat Yingsu with this, then that was too naive. If she could arouse Yingsu's battle intent, that was enough. Thought Humi's eyes burned with a curious light. Although she was slightly better than her previous indolence, this was not an expression she possessed at her strongest state. An expression of ice cold that was also full of grimness. That kind of fearless and dauntless expression had already forgotten all feeling in the back of her mind. The sole thing she could hear was perhaps only conviction for battle, and the willpower to defeat the enemy in combat. She wondered when she could learn such a thing. Humi sighed. Ever since the star duels began, she had stayed in the purple Firmament Immortal Palace. Yingsu honestly was easygoing. Gradually was increasingly heedless. Although her master had said this was an expression only a lion could possess, only when she encountered a true opponent would she display a king's dominance. She completely had no need to worry, but Humi nevertheless could not be at ease. She was afraid that when faced with a genuine opponent, she would lose her life because of Yingsu's laziness. However, now it seemed that continuous star duels actually could change Yingsu. Humi's thoughts were quick. In that instant, Zhang Feiyu and Yingsu's battle had suddenly unfolded across several bouts. Yingsu's lance broke apart the flames, directly shooting towards Zhang Feiyu. Zhang Feiyu's lovely smile became grave. She promptly gripped the blazing fish king saber, forming a protective aura. Watch this general's yellow technique. Yingsu slightly smiled. She suddenly rushed forward in a spurt of energy, chillingly brandishing her lance. In the air, a golden arc was drawn. Zhang Feiyu instantly turned her saber into a shield, using the flat of the blade to block this attack. Although her hands were jolted into numbness by the opponent's thrust, she herself nevertheless did not care. She seized this chance to spin her weapon, pairing with her saber like lightning. Her swift as lightning slash nevertheless was anticipated by Yingsu a long time ago. Yingsu's lance became a golden light that blocked this slash. Then the entire weapon suddenly shook, and a frightening force quickly meshed against the spear from the weapon. Zhang Feiyu completely did not expect that when the two weapons clashed, the weapon of the elder sister in front of her would still have such an odd assault style, to unexpectedly still sustaining a powerful strike from the side. It was just a momentary lapse in awareness, but the blazing fish king saber had already flipped out of her hands, flying several meters away, stabbing into the ground at an angle. Zhang Feiyu's face was unsightly, left without a choice but to retreat. Yingsu then faintly smiled, waving the golden light in her hand before tyrannically and suddenly hacking down. With everything on the line, Zhang Feiyu nimbly spun around and evaded this slash. After several exchanges, she immediately retrieved her blazing fish king saber. Yingsu raised the lance with one hand and mocked her. "Little sister, why are you the first to be aroused?" These words choked Zhang Feiyu into endless sullenness. Little sister must not be pleased with herself. Little sis Zhang Heng ought to call this general elder sister. The girl smiled, sneakily hiding weapons. "You are not worthy of me, Feiyu, addressing you as elder sister." Zhang Feiyu sneered. Yingsu shrugged, saying indolently, "If little sister wants to know, then just display your skill for elder sister to see. Break this golden light." Before she finished, Yingsu charged forwards, her speed instantly accelerating, becoming a golden stream of light. Her polearm's trajectory rapidly changed. Yingsu fiercely exerted strength, shoving aside Zhang Feiyu's blazing fish king saber's defense. A sharply tipped spear practically stabbed perfectly, brushing past Zhang Feiyu's neck, splitting open a thin wound. This thrust speed was so fast it left Zhang Feiyu dodging completely subconsciously. "Little sister, are you dazed?" Yingsu yawned, raising a mocking grin. Balanced star boatman Zhang Feiyu rubbed the blood on her neck, her eyes wide. She felt astonishment. "Damn it." Zhang Feiyu's temper burned, furiously speaking. Her foot moved forwards, and in the next second, Zhang Feiyu once again initiated an attack. The lights that the saber and spear shook out intersected, their tips dragging trails of light, splitting apart the practically frozen air. Under that tempo of attack and defense exchange, sword wind was raised because of the powerful impacts, enshrouding their figures. There was a sword light of penetrating cold. Zhang Feiyu could clearly see the face of the young woman in front of her, but what came from the weapon was not high battle spirit or tranquility, but a sort of frenzied frivolity. She honestly was disdainfully somewhat over the top. Even Wu Song or Lin Cheng were not so excessive. Zhang Feiyu was extremely angry, surprisingly indignant at Jingshu's contemptuous attitude. She covered her head and sighed. Zhang Feiyu raised her saber, assuming an odd stance. Her figure swayed and created countless afterimages, her saber moving erratically and producing countless starfires. In an instant, there seemed to be 10 in front of Jingshu, 20, 100 and perhaps even more saber lights manifesting. There were too many to count, and her eyes were dazzled by the saber lights that surrounded her from every direction, from every angle, leaving no blind spots. There was no need to say this was Zhang Feiyu's dark technique. Fire Tree Silver Flower. But this Fire Tree Silver Flower was much more powerful than before. A look at Zhang Feiyu's forehead showed a flickering star crest. Astonishingly, she was resonating with her contractor. Truly audacious. Jingshu's frivolousness vanished. This instant's resonance brandished a Fire Tree Silver Flower attack that simply had no gaps at all. It was perfect enough to give people goosebumps, and even Jingshu had no time to deal with this sudden unforeseen event. Blade fire fell. Jingshu grit her teeth, suddenly spun around, and then airflow and weapon interwove. She flew over at the same time, forming an unbelievably small gap. The light disintegrated, revealing a dazzlingly beautiful golden lance with 4 glittering stars. Golden hooked soul-snatching lance. 2 as expected. She was the ranked 18th Guardian Star Gold Lancer Su Ning. The golden hooked soul-snatching lance fluttered with spearlight, but Zhang Feiyu sneered. The blazing fish king saber once again slashed, a 3rd Fire Tree Silver Flower. Then there was another slash. A 4th Fire Tree Silver Flower. What even Gold Lancer Su Jingshu was dumbstruck. For one star general to be able to surprisingly use her dark rank technique 4 times was simply unbelievable. Starfire filling the sky continuously slashed out under the blazing fish king saber. Very quickly starfire covered the entire hall. In Humi's line of sight, starfire pervaded every place in the palace, obscuring everything. Not good. Humi suddenly noticed that she had lost track of Shiyu. Clearly looking about, the young girl had rushed for the longevity steel. Borrowing the cover of the starfire filling the air, she very quickly dodged away from Humi's line of sight. How could Humi allow Shiyu to prevail? The purple firmament 9 palaces filling heaven's sword surrounded her. The young girl sneered, and chased with an escape technique. However, the starfire filling the palace was honestly vexing, completely making Humi's supervoid cultivation speed unable to manifest. These starfires seemed to be like boulders in the sea, obstructing Humi's path. However, it was fortunate that the longevity steel still had a forbid dance. To break it with Shiyu's cultivation was not so simple. Just as she thought this, 11U suddenly formed a hand seal, and threw out a green seal. This seal was square-shaped, imprinted with the black turtle, burning with a frost fire. There was a chant in Shiyu's mouth, and her hand seals formed a more than 20 zhang great seal, layer after layer of script, overlapping layers of amulets, covering the surface of the jade seal. At the same time, glittering green clouds all around made its spiritual aura linger even more, unexpectedly as if it was an immortal's treasure. How this is? Humi's pupil shrunk, thoroughly surprised. What Shiyu had waited for was precisely this chance. She knew that other than Su Xing, she herself basically was not an opponent against a super void stage star master, so she already had tacit understanding with Zhang Feiyu to use her dark technique to plan everything to go steal the longevity steel. Although the super void stage Humi appeared to be very cautious, the young girl was inexperienced. Her cultivation was so excellent, and was somewhat arrogant facing the Shiyu who was only supercluster middle stage. This gave Shiyu her chance. She shook the heaven-departing spirit distribution banner, and all of her spiritual energy, magic energy, and star energy completely gathered on the black turtle seal. Immediately she erased it. The black turtle seal that was powerful as the 5 sacred mountains that loudly made the palace about to collapse upon emerging. The green light smashed, and the longevity steel's forbid dance instantly broke. However, before Shiyu could take back the great seal, she still sent it smashing towards Humi to obstruct her. The black turtle seal flew over. Humi sneered. The purple firmament 9 palaces filling heaven sword deployed the filling heaven sword array, trapping the black turtle seal. Do you think that you can escape? At this time, Zhang Feiyu's consecutive dark ranks did not obtain any results at all. Golden armor appeared on Gold Lancer Su Jingshu's body, and a ball of golden light was released that surprisingly completely blocked the dark rank. This is. Zhang Feiyu panted, a completely exhausted state. Little sister, not bad. Su Jingshu's expression was earnest. Not saying anything more, her hand moved. The golden hooked soul-snatching lance stabbed towards Zhang Feiyu. The current Zhang Feiyu was completely powerless to defend. The blazing Fish King's saber was swatted aside, and the golden lance penetrated her chest. Then there was a flow of light. Dark technique. Gold and stone splitter. 3. The golden spear light quickly tore apart Zhang Feiyu's body. Gold Lancer Su Jingshu used her dark technique to demonstrate the utmost respect she had for Zhang Feiyu, who had spared no effort. Zhang Feiyu grabbed at Su Jingshu and fell limp. In the end, she displayed her gangster tendencies. Laughing, her body suddenly disintegrated. She fell into the star nest. She used Hetsunk. She knew that Zhang Feiyu had already embraced her resolve to die in battle. Pointing a white hand, she easily received the longevity steel in her hand. For the purple thunder monster to have such a brilliant wife as elder sister, Shiyu truly makes little sis envious. Humi and Gold Lancer Su Jingshu surrounded Shiyu. At this time, Humi's flying sword still trapped the black turtle seal. Shiyu struck a hand seal. The black turtle seal's green light magnified, knocking aside the sword array and expanding hundreds of times in size. Humi saw the black turtle seal pressing in, and was aloof. Her wrist flipped, and a diagram appeared. This portrait had yin and yang, a chaotic scene. Humi shook the diagram, and a golden bridge flew out of the diagram that wrapped the black turtle seal in golden light. The supreme ultimate diagram. Shiyu was shocked. Prehistory's strongest magic weapon. Elder sister Shiyu, you cannot escape. Humi shook the diagram. The supreme ultimate's golden light changed, and the black turtle seal reversed direction towards Shiyu. Is that so? Shiyu sneered. Humi was taken aback, inwardly shouting that things were bad. Su Jingshu also rushed forth. Her speed was already fast, but Shiyu shook the Lianxin jade pendant. Suddenly her body dissipated like smoke and departed this place. Humi grit her teeth, unable to say anything. Humi pursed her lips, shaking her head to herself. She had never thought that Shiyu would surprisingly sacrifice her own star general, and forfeit a prehistoric spirit treasure solely to steal the steel. Could it be she was preparing to present the longevity steel to the purple thunder monster? Truly unreasonable. Looking at the black turtle sea in the air, she shook the supreme ultimate diagram in her hand. The golden bridge flew out, and having lost Shiyu's control, the black turtle seal merely struggled a bit before it was caught by the golden light. With Humi's supervoid cultivation, she easily seized control over the black turtle seal. Although she lost the longevity steel, she obtained this black turtle seal. She could tell that this treasure had never appeared in Lianxin continent before, but it was extremely powerful. Even so, Humi was nevertheless unable to raise her spirits. Apparently, this purple thunder monster was a bit difficult to deal with. Little me, Guardian Star Su Jingshu heedlessly said. Humi roused from her contemplation. She lifted her head to see a rainbow light flooding the outside of the hall. This was not normal. Let us go. Turning back the clock a bit, back at the Bright Moon Longevity Palace's last hall, the renowned Harm Star Wusong. You surprisingly obey a star master, truly ridiculous. Shiman Jinlian looked at the woman in front of her, brimming with malice. Wuxia was serene as an orchid, unmoved. She held noble frost demonic lotus in one hand, her satiny black hair fluttering in the wind. A pair of pupils that were deeper than the starry skies made people unable to guess her thoughts. Jinlian exhaled, and a drop of cold sweat ran down this supervoid middle-stage great cultivator's forehead. This was a legendary fiend star? Jinlian's magic weapons and flying swords emerged in innumerable succession after seeing Wuxia, but with her supervoid stage, she completely had no choice. She could only rely on her powerful spiritual pressure deterrence, but following the passage of time, this kind of suppression became increasingly weak and more feeble than she had hoped for. Wuxia gripped Noble Frost Demonic Lotus. Her figure left behind a beautiful shadow as she vanished. Oomph. Jinlian pointed a finger, using the 1 Qi becomes 3 clarities sword array. Immediately afterwards, the most high jade clarity flying swords became 3 clarity lights, most clarity, high clarity, and jade clarity became spinning illusions, spinning faster and faster, instantly enshrouding Wuxia within. Wuxia only felt lightheaded. Her mind was unclear, and her eyes were dazzled. She quickly composed herself, gripping the 4-star power of the Noble Frost Demonic Lotus, forcefully breaking through the sword array. Jinlian formed a hand seal. The flying sword's 1 Qi becomes 3 clarities light descended, just like a shooting star, instantly becoming a sword-like canopy that ruthlessly twisted downwards, enveloping Wuxia within. Wuxia would not underestimate a supervoid middle-stage cultivator. She carried herself with grace, a cold expression. Wuxia sprung forth, her afterimages spry and lively. Noble Frost Demonic Lotus cut at the air, and a snow-white and black light flew up, connecting into a lotus flower that blocked this 3 clarities sword array. No matter what, Jinlian's 3 clarities of surging murderous intent frantically pushed down. Go. Jinlian had already anticipated this. She beckoned with her hand, and that green light bubbled forth, becoming countless green lotus flowers that spun over, as if they were swept by a gale. They wobbled and settled, extremely beautiful. The green lotus flowers and black demonic lotuses clashed. The 2 colors of earth-shattering lotuses rushed forth, completely bundling together. Immediately, green and black radiance filled the palace. Jinlian's hands twisted. She let out a shrill scream, seemingly far away yet also seemingly beside her. It was very mournful, like a bereaved widow. The 3 clarities flying sword lights magnified. Those omnipresent lotus flowers again became clouds and mist, swift as a sweeping horse. Wuxia cut with her sword. The 2 colors of black and white dueled against the 3 clarities, more suppressed than that day she had fought against Elder Immortal Extreme Clarity. The current Harm Star and Star Cultivator martial arts progressed very rapidly. Her realm seemed to border on the extreme realm, and the 4-star Noble Frost Demonic Lotus was not at a disadvantage facing off against the prehistoric spirit treasure. In the blink of an eye, the green light disintegrated, dissipating like dust. The 2 battled, everything brilliant to the extreme, without any fancy tricks or superfluous gestures at all. They were completely apprehensive of the other's strength. They wanted to quickly settle this battle. By doing so, neither was at a higher or lower level. The most high paths plans have time and again truly wasted the reputation of the Azure Dragon Territory's #1 path. Wuxia was cold. Jinlian ground her teeth. Staring at the cool and elegant Wuxia, she shouted, "Wu Song, you killed people from my path. Today, I must take you down without fail. If you leave now and hand the longevity steel to us, this palace can let bygones be bygones. In the end, you are still selfish." Wuxia disdainfully said, "Come on then if you have the ability. Your servant shall teach you a lesson on behalf of Lord Husband." Jinlian was enraged. "Insignificant Star General, you dare utter conceited nonsense." She shook the silk leaf shirt on her shoulders, read an incantation. Suddenly, the heavens and the earth dimmed again. A gale howled, and all sides became pitch black, leaving one unable to see their hands in front of them. "Watch this magic weapon." Jinlian was enraged. She suddenly arrived behind Wuxia, a starlight flying out of her forehead. It was the size of a bowl, changing constantly. Instantly, it grew in size to become a mirror. This mirror was odd, glossy as water, its interior reflecting the 8 trigrams, faintly flowing. This 8 trigrams mirror was one of 10 prehistoric spirit treasures the Most High Path had collected. The mirrors inside had a 8 trigrams array. If something was reflected in the mirror, they would be trapped by the 8 trigrams mirror, with escape being extremely difficult. Furthermore, the time spent trapped in the 8 trigrams array in the mirror depended on the user's own cultivation. With Jinlian's supervoid middle stage cultivation, she was practically unimpeded in Lianxin. However, to maintain the 8 trigrams mirror's 8 trigrams heaven and earth required extremely vast magic energy. Otherwise, Jinlian honestly was not willing to use it so easily. Go! Jinlian shouted. The mirror's light shone onto the white and black unicorn tiger. This star beast struggled for several breaths, and then an 8 trigrams array manifested like a cage, trapping the white and black unicorn tiger. Wuxia swiftly fled, promptly wielding the noble frost demonic lotus. Swordlight spread in the air into a rope, as if it was a giant net, attacking. Jinlian sneered, shining the 8 trigrams mirror. The mirror light was blinding, and a power that was heavy as 1,000 caddies yet also light as a feather enveloped Wuxia's body. Her heart sunk, and inwardly shouting that this was formidable, she had no choice but to use most of her star energy. Jinlian hung the 8 trigrams mirror in the air, and absorbed Wuxia and the white and black unicorn tiger. Although she itched to kill the harm star, Jinlian did not forget her true objective at all, the longevity steal. Suddenly, a chill attacked her. Jinlian defenses broke. She was nearly run through by this killing intent. She hastily retreated, blocking with her flying swords. With a look, Wuxia unexpectedly was right in front of her. But how? Jinlian was flabbergasted. Only then did she realize that the 8 trigrams mirror was completely unable to trap the pilgrim. The harm star possessed the pilgrim's array innate skill. To break a formation was nothing hard for her. Jinlian did not dare be careless. She pointed, and the 8 trigrams mirror swayed in succession. The mirror light fired ray after ray. Wuxia's body techniques rapidly changed, shuttling back and forth in the 8 trigrams mirror. Jinlian saw that her proud prehistoric spirit treasure 8 trigrams mirror was unexpectedly completely useless. Suddenly, she angrily ground her teeth. Again, she raised her flying swords and stuck several hand seals. They spun several times, and she opened her mouth to spray a green fog towards Wuxia. At the same time, she backflipped, circulating her extreme clarity powers. Using her strength, the green gas immediately folded and wrapped up Wuxia. Jinlian suddenly felt the green clouds shudder. Wuxia waved, and as if she wanted to directly shake off this green cloud, she broke out. In addition, she faced a bubbling killing intent that pervaded the skies and earth. Knowing that Wuxia's advantage was in martial force, she increasingly did not dare be careless. On one hand, she circulated her power to suppress Wuxia, and on the other, she used every kind of treasure and talisman for the purpose of buying time to take the longevity steal. Wuxia coldly looked at her. The double-ended Noble Frost Demonic Lotus in her hand split, becoming the 2 Noble Frost and Demonic Lotus short swords. Then she flung them. Instantly, they were wrapped by green light. Wuxia shouted, "Go!" Noble Frost Demonic Lotus suddenly broke out of the clouds, directly chasing Jinlian. Jinlian pointed her flying sword. The flying sword split into 3, splitting off 3 green lights. Once again, she used 1 chi becomes 3 clarities. 1 thick, 2 thin, thinning into 2 sword shapes. They matched Noble Frost and Demonic Lotus. That thick one became a broadsword, glittering with green light as it hacked at Wuxia. In these exchanges, Jinlian had practically used full power, not daring to hold back at all. No cultivator would dare directly receive this broadsword, for its power was formidable, practically unblockable. Wuxia's fists forged ahead, her figure swaying as it already pierced right through. This is bad. Jinlian greatly panicked. She knew that she could not handle this harm star pilgrim. Yet she also hated to part with the longevity steal that was right in front of her. She bit open her fingertip and struck a hand seal. An 8-sided banner appeared at the same time, swaying in the wind. An array began to hum. rumbling into existence. Multicolored spiritual threads appeared in the vicinity of the array, becoming silk strands and light clouds that simultaneously rolled up the eight-sided banner. The eight-sided banner's spiritual light flashed. Gradually, there was a myriad of light rays. A burst of shocking spiritual pressure vaguely passing through every place in the array and glowing bright. One talisman character after another jumped out from the array, and then the 8 trigrams mirror flashed, appearing in the center of the array, releasing multicolored light. Jinlian silently changed. The 8 trigram scene wrapped up Wuxia. This 8 trigrams peace and safety array was Jinlian's final trick. With the 8 trigrams mirror as the array eye, she could trap any opponent to death in the center, unable to leave no matter what abilities they had. Although she did not know if it had any chance against the pilgrim that had the pilgrim's array, it was too late for Jinlian to care. The Wuxia who was in the very center of the array merely saw a strange scene on all sides, in innumerable succession. Instantly, the palace's scenery had thoroughly vanished. The 8 trigrams amulet script blew apart together, dazzling the eyes. Wuxia faintly felt her body lose control. Her face slightly changed, and she took a deep breath. Humph. Jinlian coldly laughed, and then she flew towards the longevity steel. Wuxia's brow wrinkled. She increased her speed, but the 8 trigrams were like a shadow tagging along. Wuxia was completely unable to break out. Wuxia beckoned with her hands, recalling Noble Frost demonic lotus. Time was precious, and she knew another second of delay would let Jinlian prevail. If the longevity steel was taken, Wuxia felt that she would have no face to go see Su Xing. Wuxia gazed at the array. There was a mirror light in the air. She knew that the 8 trigrams mirror was this array's array eye. The pilgrim's array was unable to break free, so the only solution was to break the 8 trigrams mirror. Wuxia's double swords combined, and she suddenly leapt. Her figure changed. Dark rank sword technique. Blood-splashing Mandarin duck. An 8 trigram obstructed Wuxia's advance. The pilgrim's double sword slashed, and a bloodlight spilled out of the sword's tip. Then the second dark technique was launched in succession. She took advantage of this to break through the 8 trigrams obstruction. She reached the front of the 8 trigram mirror in the blink of an eye, and Wuxia's slash pierced through this mirror. Liked it. The mirror cracked. A ray of white chi flowed out, and Wuxia used her innate skill pilgrim's array. She was not obstructed this time, easily walking past the white chi. Wuxia was just about to use her dark technique a third time to kill in a spurt of energy the Jinlian that was at the end of the road. Suddenly at this moment, the cool and elegant woman showed an expression of surprise. The Jinlian in front of the longevity steel stared blankly at Wuxia. Her chest astonishingly had been punched through with a bloody hole. Wuxia was stunned. The longevity steel had best be given to Yu. A domineering declaration. Jinlian was tossed flying away. Clearly she was dead. An absolutely beautiful girl sat atop the longevity steel. She wore a slight grin, bouncing her legs in a Y shape, as if she was amusing herself, bored even. This is bad. Wuxia felt a frightening pressure. Suddenly, the pilgrim's whole body stretched taut. Harm Star Pilgrim Wusong. Greetings, little sister. The young girl smiled and said. She jumped off the longevity steel. Her pace was very carefree, but each step seemed to step with the force of 1,000 caddies, making Wuxia feel pressure. Wuxia took note of an additional young man in a corner of the hall. These two were like demons. Wuxia surprisingly did not know how they came here. You are not that man's star general, so I will not make things difficult for you. The girl smiled. Her imposing aura somewhat lessened. That man gestured with his hand, and the longevity steel fell into his palm. Wuxia's gaze was cold as freezing water. She knew that the man the girl spoke of referred to Su Xing, but what sect was this Star Master's star general? Just facing her had a kind of terrifying pressure. The white and black unicorn tiger descended, its tiger eyes watching them cautiously. Your servant actually wants a lesson. Wuxia's figure vanished. Bang. Wuxia retreated 100 meters, suddenly stopping. Her chest was smothered, nearly vomiting blood. So incredible. Just who is this star general? From the girl's body, Wuxia caught scent of a kind of unprecedented ancient aura. Could you be? Wuxia was stifled. The answer is very cruel. The girl smiled. Her attack fell, suppressing Wuxia. And at this time, a rainbow light flashed outside the palace, filling the skies and covering the earth. Do you think you can face a super void sword saint? Sword Saint Xiaoyao looked at Su Xing and simply felt disbelief. He was surprisingly unable to take the super cluster cultivator in front of him with his powerful sword technique. Although Sword Saint Xiaoyao was powerful, how could he ever have imagined that Su Xing had inherited so many formidable innate skills while also sparring with top-notch martial generals? If it was solely on close combat, even a super void sword saint would not be able to take Su Xing so easily. Sword Saint Xiaoyao's hand raised a long sword leisurely. Instantly, sword chi swarmed Su Xing like freed demons. Su Xing then blocked with a hand. Immediately, he felt the flesh of his whole body heavily bruised from the madly swelling sword chi. Although this was only an external injury, this nevertheless made Su Xing grimace in pain. "TSK, I shall see just how long you can withstand this," Sword Saint Xiaoyao said. Su Xing was just like an iron bastion, blocking Sword Saint Xiaoyao's advance. His flying sword spun around. Heaven Tearing and Lengia attacked in succession, rolling a skull into blades. Sword Saint Xiaoyao merely raised his left hand and waved, and an intense storm suddenly eliminated the attack completely. At the same time, what welcomed him was Su Xing's deepest and most lethal attack. Swift as wind, forceful as fire, striking at his enemy's weak points. Under the support of whatever strength his whole body had, even Sword Saint Xiaoyao was startled. In his heart, he feared the innate skill of Lin Chong. His attacks were hardly careless, and Su Xing's revolt took the first strike, completely controlling Sword Saint Xiaoyao, making him unable to leave. A hiss continuously sounded in the air. In an instant, Su Xing completely released his limits. Each simple attack movement joined together in a flow smooth as water, his attacks becoming even more profound. At the same time, light unfolded in his hands. Cold sword lights like shooting stars outside the heavens flashed by. Useless. Sword Saint Xiaoyao oddly blocked with one hand. The power of the impervious shield that the sword chi of his whole body became was just like a lingering string that wrapped up all of Su Xing's attacks. But Su Xing's relentless assault made Sword Saint Xiaoyao feel disbelief. This power was seemingly endless, increasing in magnitude. He waved his hand, and then there was a muffled roar. Sword light tore a deep hole into the ground. Sword Saint Xiaoyao attempted to use an even more surly power to resolve Su Xing's ferocious attack. And his objective was indeed reached. The sword chi that condensed on the weapon once again released its one and only killing move. The attack it raised instantly knocked Su Xing aside. Before Sword Saint Xiaoyao could catch his breath, in that instant, Su Xing's speed in that instant was completely beyond description. As if in just that one instant, a distance of several hundred zhang was already crossed by him. He moved with dance steps that seemed light as smoke, moving past Sword Saint Xiaoyao's flank. The cold light in Su Xing's eyes glinted. A sharp blade brushed past his neck. How? Sword Saint Xiaoyao's advancing pace immediately fell back, only able to return here. Bang! A terrifyingly loud noise. Instantly his hands shook, and a frightening force that was surly to the extreme suddenly exploded on Su Xing's weapon. Although the heavenly abyss swords forged of black turtle divine iron were far from as sharp as heaven tearing, or even the 10,000-year evil-suppressing gem bamboo langia, the black turtle divine iron's characteristic power still was to make these swords heavy as the 5 sacred mountains. Although Sword Saint Xiaoyao blocked, the 12 heavenly abyss swords simultaneously maneuvered over. Sword Saint Xiaoyao was unable to manage. His body suddenly shook for an instant, and a ray of sword light flashed, bouncing back with an even faster speed. Sword Saint Xiaoyao's hand already was stained blood red, for several blood vessels had ruptured. However, a cut also appeared on Su Xing's body. Su Xing took in a deep breath. That succession of attacks just then made him feel his energy somewhat was overburdened. The Super Void Sword Saint was not so easy to deal with as expected. Compared to those magic weapon cultivators, Su Xing actually would rather confront those people. Facing Sword Saint Xiaoyao required extra vigilance. The slightest slip-up could not be allowed. Your sword technique is a bit familiar. Have we met before? Su Xing asked. Sword Saint Xiaoyao was emotionless. He raised his sword. The air suddenly rang with a shrill noise. A pitch-black light suddenly appeared beside Su Xing, as if it had already existed at that place. The light of an abyss flashed, flying towards his neck. Such swift speed. Su Xing's pupils suddenly contracted. As if he had been swatted by a giant invisible hand, his entire figure suddenly fell backwards. Heavenly depths flew back to defend. Dingling. Too, in that melodious ring, that pitch-black light suddenly was torn to pieces by Su Xing's slash. Countless tiny fragments flew in all directions. Continuing to pounce towards Su Xing calmly resolved them one after another. At the same time, those eyes of Sword Saint Xiaoyao, those eyes were even more ice-cold as if he was in hell. Sword Saint Xiaoyao stared at him like a death god. His killing intent surged and a sword light flew. Instantly, Sword Saint Xiaoyao's figure seemed to be a specter that came from hell, unexpectedly ignoring the distance between them, and directly appearing in front of Su Xing. His speed was so fast it made Su Xing unable to track him. Sword chi gathered on his body with force to topple mountains and overturn the seas. He horizontally slashed. The speed was quick beyond reason. Su Xing did not dare be careless at all. A cold light glinted that knocked into Sword Saint Xiaoyao's sword light. 36 flying swords fell over each other to protect him. Many thanks to this fellow. Nangong shall engrave this to memory. Now let me bury them. Su Xing and Sword Saint Xiaoyao's battle lasted several hundred bouts. Finally, Nangong Xing still completed her array. The female cultivator coldly spoke, forming hand seals. The 103 clarities flying swords simultaneously danced, becoming a line of swordlight. It was basically impossible to describe the terror of this kind of swordlight. In fact, when this swordlight manifested, Su Xing felt his as if he was blinded. Then Nangong Xing's finger pointed. The sword lights instantly hid into space, then reappeared the next instant around Su Xing and Hua Wanyue. They seemed to be the most beautiful thing in the world, captivating them for a split second. Oh no! Su Xing saw Hua Wanyue was trapped. He promptly descended, using the 12 heavenly abyss to protect her, while he himself circulated the meditative mind lotus flower to its limit. Golden lotuses appeared in the air, Buddhist light glowing brightly. Truly a stupid star master, unexpectedly going to protect some other star general. Seeing Su Xing surprisingly use his most powerful defensive flying swords to go protect the hero star, Nangong Xing laughed her head off. You are dead now. Watch the 3 clarities first origin sword array. The most high path's 4 great supervoid ancestral masters each practiced a supreme grade 3 clarities sword array. Each was different, and among them, the 3 clarities first origin sword array was the strongest. Even Northern Darkness has Fish 3, with the highest cultivation could not compare, and it was because of this that Nangong Xing required lots of time to prepare it. However, the moment the sword array appeared, Nangong Xing handed the purple thunder monster his death sentence. Clang clang. Swordlight cut apart Su Xing's counterattack, but this was merely the beginning. An excessive sword array appeared between Su Xing and Hua Wanyue. Sword shadows instantly became indistinct mirror images. Swordlight mixed with electric arcs surged like a tide. The reef along the ground in a range of 3 zhang was simultaneously disintegrated by this frightening power. The endless swordlight rolled over, unstoppable, instantly wrapping Su Xing firmly within. From afar it seemed like a light ball of pitch black. Sword Saint Xiaoyao was shocked, hastily dodging. Su Xing had no choice but to flip out the 4 symbols seal when he saw this. The 4 symbols seal had been damaged by Emperor Liang in battle. Now, it had only recovered about 70 to 80% after this much time had passed. He originally was preparing to use it for Maiden Mountain's trials. Now, it seemed there would be no chance for him if he did not use it. The white light of the 4 symbols seal flashed. The holy beast's black turtle leapt out of the 4 symbols seal. This black turtle positioned its body to protect Su Xing. The black turtle unleashed divine light, continuously clashing with the endless sword light. Four symbols seal. Lianxin spotted this magic weapon that was once envious of the East's. Her heart was even more sad and furious, and she itched to hack Suwen to pieces. Purple thunder monster, today, I will have you destroyed completely. Lianxin shouted, not holding back at all and urging forth her magic energy. The dual mode's ruler simultaneously descended into the array to strike the black turtle. The snow-walking frost-eye beast bit at Lianxin upon seeing this. Sword Saint Xiaorao blocked it, handling the snow-walking frost-eye beast at the same time he mulled over the current situation. Seeing Suwen was already trapped by the sword array, apparently, he would not last much longer. But what made Sword Saint Xiaoyao uneasy was the Hua Wanyue protected by the heavenly depths. To be hiding for such a long time, this was unavoidably too long. Darling Wanyue, aren't you done yet? Suwen was also speechless. There was a gentle snort, and the heavenly depths swords dispersed. Hero Star Little Li Guang's graceful figure emerged. A rainbow light radiated on her arrow, and she coldly spat out 4 words. Sun-piercing heavenly rainbow. Darling Wanyue, aren't you done yet? Suwen only felt his star energy was rapidly failing. Controlling the 4 symbols seal required large amounts of star energy support, so Suwen did not want to use the 4 symbols seal unless absolutely necessary. Now that he was already cornered by 2 super void cultivators, Suwen had no choice but to ask Hua Wanyue just what she was doing. Hua Wanyue softly grunted. In spite of her currently concentrating all of her divine general star energy into a single point, every single minute detail that was happening on the outside fell within her perception. She saw that Suwen was defending so recklessly. Hua Wanyue's heart had a very shocked feeling, particularly at the end when Suwen unexpectedly gave up the heavenly abyss protection for her, making Hua Wanyue feel somewhat perplexed. Any other star master would not place himself in danger for some other star general. This was an unspoken rule of the 1,000-year star duels. Everyone understood. Was this man arrogant or sentimental? Fighting back and forth repeatedly, this made Hua Wanyue at a loss for a time, and an odd change manifested in her heart. It was this odd mentality that made Hua Wanyue's originally charging double 10,000 Li God-killing arrows fizzle out. Suddenly, Hua Wanyue felt that she should not be protected by this man who should be an enemy, an opponent, or even her bane. She was the hero star Little Li Guang Huarong. She could not accept being fancied by a fickle man. Protect him. Hua Wanyue's mind bubbled forth with a shocking thought. This thought was increasingly intense, making her heart beat even quicker. She was not protecting him. She merely did not wish to owe him a favor. Right, this was it. But she did want to get rid of this man in one stroke. Hua Wanyue's heart suddenly relaxed. A clear and lucid idea flashed through her mind. This idea came very suddenly. The double 10,000 Li God-killing arrows concentrating in her hand slowly disappeared. Hua Wanyue changed her thinking and killing move. All of her thoughts tormented Hua Wanyue's thoughts torment her heart like a century passing by. But in reality, time flew rapidly by. Seeing Suwen had been trapped by the 3 Clarity's first origin sword array, he was increasingly in danger. Hua Wanyue's graceful eyes sunk into unprecedented resolution. The hero star pulled her moon back into a full moon, gracefully blowing away a strand of hair. Her hand pulled back, aiming at Suwen. I shall return this favor. For the moment, this man has my protection. The corner of Hua Wanyue's lips had a nearly imperceptible curve. The lady's style was fully revealed. Arrow light began to turn multicolored, suddenly shooting forth. A world-destroying rainbow light shot directly out. In a split second, the bright moon longevity palace was enshrouded in an extreme light. That rainbow arrow shot through the heavens. It did not sink into Suwen's chest, not harming him at all. The multicolored rainbow light diffused widespread from Suwen's body, surging just like a heavenly river. Lianxin's 3 Clarity's first origin sword array was instantly destroyed by this extreme light. The dual mode's ruler lost its spiritual power under the rainbow light arrow. In the split second Hua Wanyue fired the arrow, All threats within a range of several dozen li around Su Xing disappeared. That diffusing rainbow light became 10,000 sharp arrows that shot in all directions, wrapped with a powerful might. Earth rank technique. Sun-piercing heavenly rainbow. Lianxin and Sword Saint Xiaoyao were shocked. How could they have imagined that the hero star would surprisingly use her earth rank archery? The two of them hastily used their escape techniques and abilities to defend against the extreme lights that flew over towards them. But even so, this still made two supervoid cultivators feel greatly burdened. Their faces paled. Ah! Su Xing's mouth hung agape, and he could not help but lower his head, just so happening to make eye contact with Hua Wanyue. The hero star was completely merciless. An odd glint flashed past her pupils, and she pursed her lips, merely snorting softly. The meaning in her eyes nevertheless went unsaid. Su Xing smiled, suddenly turning around and attacking. This heavenly rainbow was only unparalleled for a mere instant. But this instant was enough to make Su Xing turn the situation around. Su Xing flashed by, arriving in front of Lianxin. This fairy Lianxin was currently being occupied with the rainbow light arrow. Seeing Su Xing shout, her finger pointed in an attempt to use a bit of power, but Su Xing did not give her the chance. Heaven tearing came and twisted. Lianxin suddenly died with lingering regrets. Su Xing then attacked Sword Saint Xiaoyao. Along the way, his figure quickly split apart. One split into two more, and then the three directly reached more than a dozen. Astonishingly, he was equivalent to the Star General's 10,000 techniques realm. Sword Saint Xiaoyao did not put forth as much effort as Lianxin. Against the launched rainbow arrow, he was not too debilitated. That pair of ice-cold eyes watched the Su Xing casting phantoms. He blinked. This was the first time he felt a deep chill at his back. But Sword Saint Xiaoyao's heart coldly snorted. How could he concede defeat? At the same time he surreptitiously attacked. He did not dare be careless, rousing the last of his energy to launch a counterattack. A starved camel was bigger than a horse, let alone that he was a supervoid sword saint. Swordlight violently fired, suddenly 10,000 galloping horses. Sword Saint Xiaoyao rushed to the frontmost specter of Su Xing, pressing it into the ground. Sword Saint Xiaoyao's powerful strength immediately destroyed this shadow. Sword Saint Xiaoyao had practically given up on capture, only using his tyrannical strength to instantly dispatch Su Xing. In the sky, a contemptuous, conceited snort stabbed like a dagger. Su Xing quickly pounced down, each of them displaying lifelike killing intent. Sword Saint Xiaoyao sneered. He then raised his weapon, and a bone-chilling swordlight suddenly enveloped Su Xing. It easily ripped him apart, becoming a vanishing phantom. A dozen fake Su Xings were instantly destroyed, but Su Xing's speed was even quicker. Does this bastard want to seize the chance to face me? Sword Saint Xiaoyao did not dare be neglectful. He abruptly exerted strength. He was like a leopard, instantly leaping to the side of Su Xing. In the instant Su Xing attacked, he directly cut into his chest. His right hand violently lodged in his opponent's throat, fiercely flinging him away. An immense power threw the target as if it was a cannonball, flying directly away, twisted apart by killing intent in that heavy and enormous noise. Another phantom. Hey! Su Xing sneered. His body techniques changed, becoming even faster. His shadows all launched an attack at Sword Saint Xiaoyao. Rainbow light shivered, and 36 flying swords were like vipers, their movements meticulous yet also fierce, careful yet also brimming with danger as they pounced. A blinding sword light cut apart the air with an endless hissing sound. Sword Saint Xiaoyao's body seemed to have lost its weight, displaying the superb body techniques of a supervoid sword saint. In Su Xing's encirclement he moved to and fro. Although the gaps in the attacks were many, their mutual coordination surprisingly had vague signs of suppressing Sword Saint Xiaoyao. Sword Saint Xiaoyao gradually felt a bit overtased. Compared to Su Xing in continuous battle, he similarly did not fare better. To say nothing of the fact that he had been sneak attacked by the sun-piercing heavenly rainbow. The calm sword saint showed slight worry, incomparably annoyed by Su Xing's 10,000 techniques realm phantoms. His ice-cold eyes attempted to discern the real body, but that rainbow light was too glaring and made Sword Saint Xiaoyao blind. With a ripping, demonic roar, the Su Xings combined assault slammed together. Sword Saint Xiaoyao instantly disappeared without a trace under Su Xing's combined attack. The killing intense energy violently swept in a circle through the surroundings like a tornado. The mad power displayed frightening killing intent. Suddenly, the Su Xing shadows that were besieging from the surroundings were torn to shreds. Sword Saint Xiaoyao's slash instantly pierced through in all directions, immediately taking advantage of the direct attack rush of 3 shadows to dispatch them. A sharp cold light suddenly attacked from behind him. It carried a far more powerful force than the other phantoms. Sword Saint Xiaoyao was long prepared, inwardly mocking the opponent's boring tricks. Suddenly, the sword he wielded in his hand danced. It captured Su Xing as if it was a large net. The net suddenly tore apart. Su Xing's flying swords completely blocked it. Come to die? Perfect. Sword Saint Xiaoyao laughed. Cold light flashed out of the corner of his eye. Su Xing's reactions were quick, and he subconsciously leaned, avoiding the most fatal spot. You are dead this time. Sword Saint Xiaoyao had long waited for just this moment. He took a deep breath. All his life, this was the first time he had ever felt excited for victory. He smiled wildly. This time, where can you even run off to? It's you who should be running. Su Xing sneered. What Sword Saint Xiaoyao caught wind of an extremely bone-chilling danger. Not good. He had forgotten there was still a damnable star general present. Hua Wanyue was graceful as before. As if she was picking a flower, she drew back the bow into a full moon. The arrow flew out like a shooting star, its speed swift. Sword Saint Xiaoyao was completely unable to evade. A 10,000 god-killing arrow penetrated his chest. However, Sword Saint Xiaoyao was worthy of being called a supervoid sword saint. Even with this, he still roused all of his energy into defense. The supervoid sword saint trained with the sword year-round. He naturally could not be matched by other cultivators in close combat. He was incomparably rich in experience. Without even thinking, he used an escape technique under the second arrow. Then he immediately used a divine talisman, fleeing. If Su Xing had been just a beat faster, his sword could have taken back a fatal strike. Fuck. Su Xing felt regretful. Young master. Your Highness. Suddenly, worried voices came to his ear. Su Xing lowered his head to look. Several beautiful figures already were flying out from each of the palaces. Ning Mei, Wuxia, and the other girls looked at that shocking rainbow light and were shaken to the core. After they seized the longevity steals, they hastily ran out. They just happened to catch sight of Su Xing and Hua Wanyue's tacit coordination drive back Sword Saint Xiaoyao. It's fine if you're all right. Su Xing looked, and the beauties were all good. Just as Su Xing was about to say something, a killing intent that flooded into the clouds suddenly came from the 9th hall of the Bright Moon Longevity Palace. This imposing power jolted the hearts of everyone present, stifling them. Not good, Xiao has some trouble. Su Xing was shocked. He promptly said to Wuxia, Xinjie, you and the others go help Xiu. I'll go find Xiao. Yes. The others also felt danger. It was too late to ask before they each went their separate ways. Hua Wanyue's brows knit tightly. She watched Su Xing rush anxiously for the 9th palace without so much as addressing her. She saw his worried expression was sincere. I never expected to surprisingly comprehend the Earth rank several dozen days early because of him. Hua Wanyue muttered to herself. 9th palace. Crisp and clear exchanges. The sparks of the weapons showered down everywhere. Just the killing intent that spurt forth from the 2 weapons tore apart the 9th palace without stopping. Bang bang bang. Continuous sounds. Little white come back. Wuxia gestured, and the white and black unicorn tiger returned to her star world. A silhouette gently landed. The young girl named Yu held something covered in light that she pointed at Wuxia. Her expression exceptionally relaxed. Wuxia felt a heavy pressure. This kind of pressure was of unprecedented power. Just who are you? Wuxia coldly said. Yu did not answer but asked back. If you leave that man, then Yu will not make things difficult for you. The orders of the Xian Nu of 9th heaven is not at all for your servant, and you to star duel. After 1,000 years, your servant does not want to star duel. After Wuxia finished listening, She was unable to maintain her calm. You are the first Overlord. Liked it? That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.